If everyone can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to this meeting of the Board of Education. This is a public work session. We have a healthy agenda this evening. So we'll start off first with some housekeeping details. First will be, can I ask for a motion for approval of the financial reports, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
A motion acknowledging receipt of the financial reports?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Dr. Johnson, we have a gift to acknowledge.
We do. We have 2 in-ground mounted benches that are going to be provided to us by the Riverside PTA and will be installed by the Riverside Playground Blacktop area.
Okay. Are there any questions by any board members? No? Good. Can I have a motion accepting the gift from the Riverside
So moved.
PTA? And a second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to recognition of students.
Thank you. I'm actually going to turn the first 2 over to Mr. Murphy. 4 very special students. So, John, if you don't mind, please.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Is this on? Okay. So while it might be a little premature to start talking about the end of the year, especially for graduating seniors, it's never too soon to start singing their praises. And for me, I guess this is the start of the celebration of this year's graduating class. A few months ago at a board meeting, we recognized 5 students who, through the National Merit Scholarship Program, reached commended scholarship status, and that is to be recognized as part of the top 3% of the 1.7 million students who take the preliminary PSAT in October of 2016. Tonight, there are 2 other students who went even further and became part of the top 1% of the 1.7 million and became recognized as National Merit semifinalists. But wait, there's more. Of the top 1%, another group of students through an application process are further recognized as National Merit Scholarships. They demonstrate academic excellence not just through the PSAT, but through continued excellence at the SAT, a portfolio of pre-college preparation work at an exemplary level at high school, a recommendation from a staff member at the high school, as well as a written essay. And following 2 students advanced to the National Merit finalist, and we look forward to hearing of their ongoing successes in the forthcoming scholarship recognition ceremonies in the coming months between now and June. I'd like to present them also with the Certificate of Merit from the National Merit Scholarship Program. Congratulations to Mr. Matthew Barrett and Mr. Brandon Stein.
And any pictures we take are available on our Facebook page for the district. So if you haven't had an opportunity, take a picture.
Mom and Dad come up, or?
Yeah, yes, that's a yes.
Thank you.
Staying with your son.
So before you run away, do we know where we're going to college?
Not yet.
No?
I'm going to Cornell.
Ooh, congratulations. Well, you'll have to come back and tell us.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Let the celebration continue. It's also at this time, while this might not come as a surprise to both of these students, we acknowledge and award our salutatorian and valedictorian. Now, while in the strictest sense of the word, this is awarded to the students with the highest grade point average in their graduating class, I always take great pride in taking a look at the resume and the portfolio of work that students complete, and it always does my heart good when the two students who were chosen represent both the spirit of Southside as well as the academic prowess. In other words, it's not just a number that we're celebrating, but the fact that they achieved academic excellence in the spirit of Southside, and that they also complete a very diverse array of other activities. A salutatorian, and both students are IB diploma candidates, which means they've completed no less than 6 and up to 9 IB and AP courses, as well as other requirements, which is our most rigorous academic course of study here. Our salutatorian did that and was, again, taking our most rigorous course of study as well as BC Calculus. But she's also a very talented athlete as the captain of the varsity volleyball team and an active member in Athletes Helping Athletes. She's also a camp counselor at Anchor, and because of her continued volunteer service, has also been rewarded with the highly coveted staff position that we all know of at Anchor. She's been a member of Girl Scouts of America for 13 years. As a parent of daughters, I can't begin to tell you that is the single biggest thing that I'm impressed by, and is currently working on achieving her Gold Award. This in the context of being awarded the second highest grade point average in Southside High School, which is a high performance district, and she has a lot of company. So congratulations to our salutatorian this year, Grace Feiner. Singles or whole big salutatorian? I don't know. All right, separately? Okay. I know you love this, I know. Small crowd. You want to practice your speech now?
Have a longer distance.
Okay.
Similarly, our valedictorian, as an IB diploma candidate, makes me tired just by looking at the extensive resume that he's completed as well as that. His main area of focus is science, both through our science research program, the Regeneron Science Research Competition, and the 2 summers that he worked at Mount Sinai Hospital. He's more passionate about his work than even his academic skills tell us. He's the president of the Engineering and Quiz Bowl Clubs, vice president of Mathletes. So this demonstrates his leadership capabilities as well as his scholarship. He's been a valuable member of the varsity cross-country team for 4 years, and taught himself how to play the piano. Of course you did. And he's also, there's always these things that I go, why would you do that? He's also an umpire for the local baseball league. Many are called, but few are chosen. I'm sure he's going on to very, very successful things, and congratulations to Morley Harlock.
While we ask Grace now, we don't have to be quiet while they take it. Make sure we can ask Grace now.
Grace,
And once
where you
again,
going to
any pictures that we take are available
Not yet?
on the district Facebook page.
Okay. Have you started writing your speech yet? No, not yet. Morley, since we asked everyone else, we'll ask you. Do you know where you're going to college?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, you're all going to have to come back and tell us.
And what about Grace?
Oh, great.
Not
Grace
yet,
doesn't
yeah.
know yet.
Joan just told me that a couple of kids, so if we could cross the border, they don't mind waiting a few minutes.
We're just going to flip-flop the next one. We're still waiting for some of the kids to arrive. So we're going to go to the Southside Middle School Presents Challenge Day. Ms. McGinn. Yes, I said the same thing.
A little, you know.
Come over here. Come by me. I know, I just couldn't make it work. So for about the past 9 years, with the exception of last year, we have hosted a program at Southside Middle School that's called Challenge Day. And Challenge Day is an organization that's based in California where they send to us 2 individuals who come and they open up the emotional, social-emotional acceptance, understanding, tolerance portion of our students. What we do is in the 8th grade, there's 1 day per approximately 100 students. So this year I think it was 86 due to the class size. And the students come in and they spend the entire day with these instructors and their faculty, our faculty, and see each other in a different light. Now, if you want to see more of what Challenge Day actually looks like, there's plenty of things on challengeday.org. Due to my own lack of technical skills, we don't have a little video to show you. I know, we looked one up. We did, because these wonderful 8th graders have been working with me to put together a presentation to give to you to talk about Challenge Day. And I would be remiss in saying that we are so grateful to the faculty and staff of Southside Middle School for participating in this, but also to the Southside Middle School PTA, who actually has a line in their budget that without we could not make this happen. So this is an item that we fundraise for, and the PTA fundraises for us as well. So we're very grateful. But I've asked the students, and these are 4 of our fabulous 8th graders, then for them to give you their reflection on the day. They each experienced it. They experienced what's similar and what's different. So I forget who's number 1. Jared. This is Jared Vignola, and he is number 1. Oh, sorry.
Can I turn this on?
The light?
Yeah, I thought I like it.
He's very shy.
No, I'm not. Hello. All right. I'm a little scared, but so yeah, I'm Jared Vignola. I'm 13 years old, and not usually known as the emotional type. You could ask any of my friends that, but I did cry at Challenge Day. I'm not afraid to say that. Challenge Day taught me how and why it is okay to cry, and it's never a time you should be afraid to cry. My best friend I made a Challenge Day, his name was Chris, and he said crying helps you not hurt you. Not only did I learn a lot about myself, I learned a lot about my friends. I also was able to express myself in a way I never could. Yeah, I got them, so they helped me out a little bit.
Oh, okay. Hi. Oh, okay. Okay. Hi. I'm Ashlyn. I'm nervous, so sorry if my voice shakes. A day I will never forget is Challenge Day. It was honestly a life-changing moment. We often call people fake, but we are actually all fake. We hide behind a smile, and when everything is wrong, we say we're all fine and push it aside. Challenge Day made people feel like they are not alone and other people understand. Now we have a better understanding of our classmates and even faculty. Challenge Day was a safe place to talk and not be scared. After Challenge Day, I don't see anyone as weak. I see them as strong for opening up. That's all I have.
I'm nervous too. I can't really top that because, Nationals, okay. I wrote this on my phone because I wasn't really prepared for this. And then, yes. So, my name is Sebastian Rivas. I go to Southside. You know that, okay. All right. In my opinion, everyone has a mask. In my mask, I keep my personal stuff and my family to myself. You might share your mask with people who you really trust. Like I said, everyone has a mask. But when Challenge Day came, I had the chance to open my mask and show my smile. I had the chance to get real and talk about my life and how it really is. And one of the activities named Cross the Line, it really hit me. Basically, we had to cross the line about what they would say. I had to cross the line for quite a few times, but some of the questions that they asked just really hit me. One of the questions were about, if you lost someone. I did. It was about... okay. Sorry. It was... okay. Although everyone looked at me and said, wow, he's crying, it really touched me. So everyone looked at me, but there were other people on the side, and they really understood me. At the end, everyone got real and took off their mask and showed all their smiles. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Montana. For me, Challenge Day was a day that opened my eyes up to the people around me and what they are dealing with. At one point, when we did the cross the line activity, I was nervous because I had heard how emotional everyone got. When I saw my friends, classmates, and even teachers cross the line for some things, I became more aware. Not only had I been ignorant to what everyone else was going through, but also ungrateful at times. People walk into school with this fake smile every day. People walk into school with a fake smile every day, masking what is going on in their lives. Asking how someone is feeling isn't nearly as effective as having a day like Challenge Day to remind us that everyone goes through something at one point or another. We all have to support them and be there for each other. I specifically remember it as a day where we all just listened to one another rather than judge, and listening became more effective than giving advice. After Challenge Day, a lot of people are still reminded of how we should treat one another and how we can't judge our peers on how they come to school. Challenge Day allowed our 8th grade and faculty to connect with one another in a safe environment that I personally think has positively changed the way I look at everyone, including myself. Thank you.
So again, there are many different activities that happen during the day at Challenge Day, and it really starts from the beginning at about 8:30 and goes right through till 2:45. And these students were involved with all of their classmates, and there were the different activities that got them to open up, got them to talk. But if you noticed, no one is speaking about things that actually happened in the day other than certain activities, because there's a confidentiality. And although people always say the middle school has such a rumor mill and all the drama and all of that, all of the students in the 8th grade held the confidence of their peers. There's never any teasing afterwards. There's never, oh, did you hear this kid said that? Never in all the years we've done it. So we're very proud that we're able to host it and have it and do this with our students. I'm very proud of all of you. You did a great job. You did a great job. And again, thank you to the middle school PTA for keeping us afloat with this.
Thank you.
Thank you to the middle school, and they all certainly put a smile on our face.
Sheila, do we want pictures with them?
Guys, come here.
Photo op.
And you're also on TV. Smile.
Got a little camera up there?
You want to ask them where they're going to lunch? I was just thinking the same I'm surprised that one, I'm surprised 1 out of 4 did. They never. That's okay. They should have all acceptances.
This is from the side.
No. It's a little early. No, it's still needs to go. Hopkins, they told me Hopkins comes out in 2 weeks. The big school.
Okay, I think we're going to continue with the students for, top students in the nation for light sail individual reading minutes.
So what is light sail? This is a really wonderful opportunity for us tonight to celebrate with families much of what they see as much as what we see, and understand that reading, and as children grow through the reading process, is as much the work of families as it is of the school. So it is a great opportunity for us tonight to celebrate with them and their families. What Mr. Pelletier is going to explain a little bit about, and then we're going to bring you up and talk about each of our students. So, Chris?
Dr. Johnson, thank you very much. Thank you to that one person back there. I appreciate it. I did. That doesn't count. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Johnson, it's very fitting that we are talking tonight about National Merit Scholarship finalists, valedictorians, and salutatorians, because I'm going to put a couple bucks down maybe on the fact that probably our next salutatorian, or not next, but in a few years, we'll have a salutatorian and valedictorian sitting out there, at least, or certainly again, a National Merit Scholarship finalist. We have some voracious, I always like to use that word, voracious readers in Rockville Center. So this past January 9th through February 10th, Light Sail had a challenge, the Light Sail 25. And what Light Sail is an online learning literacy library. It's individualized. It works with students' lexiles. They answer questions as they're reading passages, and the students that respond correctly, their lexile starts to go up. They get challenged with more challenging reading, and they get new libraries constantly updated. Well, maybe we'll ask a couple of students to talk about Light Sail themselves, but just a little background. In this nation, there were hundreds of schools and close to 16,000 students that read during this Light Sail Challenge. Rockville Center proudly had 3 of the top 10 schools in the entire nation reading in the Light Sail Challenge. Top 10 schools, 3 of them in Rockville Center came in top 10. Did I say that right? Top 10. I expected okay. Expected a little applause for that, right. So, we do have our principals here tonight. Mr. Recupero, Wilson School finished top 10 in the nation again, Light Sail School, Light Sail Reading. And his teacher is Mr. Delamorte. I don't know if Andrew was able to make it tonight, but his teaches ELA in Wilson School. And then at Watson School, Mrs. Wallman is here tonight. Mrs. Wallman did not have to solicit applause. It just came naturally. She had a top 5 school in the nation in Light Sail Reading. And I see her 5th grade ELA teacher, Miss Rice, is here tonight. Miss Rice. And Riverside School, also a top 5 school in the nation. In the nation. Students read for thousands of hours. Each student read on average in our buildings over 20 hours individually over that 1-month span. Some of our students read for over 4,000 minutes. It's incredible numbers. We're talking again about voracious readers. So I'm going to call up all these students in no particular order. Every one of these students was top 100, again, in the nation. I know I keep saying that, in the nation, but top 100 in the nation. So let's see, I hope all of us are here, or as many are here as possible. Let's call up Catherine Ahern. Catherine. Guys, just come kind of line up right here if you don't mind. Hi, Catherine. Are you cold? Matthew Arnott. Arnaud. Sophia Bracco. Hey, Sophia. Brady Callahan. James Curran. Erica Flaherty. James Giangregorio. Catherine Grazzi. Alan Lynn. Matthew Matta. John Medita. Daniel Mendez. Amori Mezquita Robinson. Just want to say something about Amori, who I met today. 3rd in the entire nation. Matthew Monroy. Colleen Murphy. And Daniel Sheik. Daniel Sheik. So, gang, if I could ask, who would like to answer a couple questions? Well, you know what? I'm going to give you my mic. And someone take...
Here, take this one too.
And then
Is it on?
just tell me a little bit about the light sail challenge. Tell me a little bit about the light sail challenge in your home. For you individually, what was that like being in the light sail challenge?
It was hard at first. I was not really interested in any books, and then I got my teacher, Mrs. Rice, to take out the power text, and then I started really reading because I heard there was a top 100 list, and I was really determined to get on it.
You have to read like a lot of minutes. Like usually, I didn't know because it kind of like messed up on the way because my power texts were they weren't that long, and yeah.
Miss Rice, what real quick, Miss Rice, what's a power text?
Okay, so a power text is one of the texts that you have to read. It's kind of the assessment text. So what Matt Arnott doesn't know is that he had maxed out on power text, but whatever. And so he read through so many of them, and then you can pick like 3 books, and you can read whatever book of your choice, which you guys have so generously given us funds for that library. We need more of that, by the way. And
It's in the budget.
Then they have to read the power text, which is a text that is on or above their lifestyle, and it's used as an assessment benchmark.
Anyone else about reading light sail? James?
Well, there was a lot of pressure kind of because Mrs. Rice really wanted to come in first.
Oh, Mrs. Rice.
But Jimmy read a lot of different genres that he would never have read. Tell him about one or two of the books.
The Watsons Go to Birmingham, which I really, really like, and Dr. Dolittle, which was actually kind of pretty funny. And so we fell to 10th during the middle of the contest, but I think we brought back up to 5th.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
It's kind of like teamwork.
Yeah, that was great teamwork. Anyone else want to jump in?
Well, I didn't know there was like a top 100 list, so I was basically just competing with the people that were in my class, so I just kind of competed against them, and that was kind of my drive.
What a great job. Go ahead, Amari. I see you have a mic.
I came in 3rd place when he walked in, and I was
Oh.
like, he gave me a fist pump, and he said, "Oh, you came in 3rd." I was like, "Oh." And then I was excited to come here to talk about light sail. And one day I read 86 minutes, and that kind of inspired me to read more, and then I put us back in 2nd place.
Okay, well, I really extremely wanted to win, but yeah, like a lot of the kids in our class, like me, Catherine, and Colleen, we read we have 7,000 minutes, so we read a lot, and it was fun, and we're awesome.
Does anyone else want to talk a little bit about some of the genres maybe that you were exposed to? We have more. Okay.
At first, I didn't really care about light sail and then Mrs. Rice told us about the light sail challenge, and I still didn't care. And then she gave us things that she will do if we came in first.
Oh.
Like have a pizza party or have a pizza party or
And what did you do because of it?
no homework for 2 weeks,
And what did you do because of it?
and then I started reading a lot of minutes.
And now what do you like to do?
Read. At first, I just wanted to get in first in the class, and when the competition started, I just wanted to come in first in the nation because I just wanted to get the $3,000 and get more books to read.
So the top three schools in the country, they get money worth of books, and then so I really wanted to. So I was in 4th for the class, and then I read a lot because I really wanted to read a lot because of the competition, and then I was in 1st in the class, and then yeah.
So Lightsail did award to the top school in the nation $3,000 worth of books. Unfortunately, we did not get there, but these good people in the Board of Education and this community are going to make sure that we have, well, we're going to talk about budget tonight if you guys want to stick around. Mr. Bartel's over there. Yeah, that's right. And just real quickly, anyone, genres that you came across that you didn't think you'd actually like, but you realized, wow, now I really like this. Okay, go ahead.
I started to like more fantasy books.
Fancy books?
Fantasy.
Oh, I'm sorry, fantasy books. I got you. Like sci-fi?
Yeah, I would always think it's not real and it's not entertaining, and it was one of my power texts, and I kind of got into it.
Did you read Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
Yeah.
I thought so. Anyone else? Thanks. Talking to both mics at the same time, James. See what happens.
I read
read the Watson's Book of Birmingham. It was a
That might-
realistic, historical fiction.
You're a pro, you've been here before.
James?
Switch with me, buddy.
Thank you.
And I really liked the Watsons Go to Birmingham, so, and I like to read those books. I don't know.
That's cool. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Yeah.
I was always into fantasy books, and I never really tried any other genres. And then I tried realistic fiction, and I actually really liked it.
Can you give me an example of one of the books you like?
I read Hoot. I like that one.
Cool. Anyone else? We're going to make sure everyone talks tonight.
I like all the genres, but mostly I liked fairy tales and like fables, and yeah.
What was your favorite fable?
I liked all of it. I don't have a favorite.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Anyone else? I know one person that didn't speak yet, who was the first. I got someone right here also.
He doesn't like to talk.
You spoke?
Whoa.
No? Take a deep breath.
Okay. Right, this is interesting, Chris.
Yes, sir.
What kind of genre?
Historical fiction.
Historical fiction. Whoa. Doing very great. All right. Great job. Good cross passing. Great job.
I was in the middle.
Lauren, you have your wide angle?
Yeah, we're gonna have the. Two rows. Everybody.
Who's number 8? Chris?
Okay, guys, we're gonna take a picture, but we need you to get 2 rows because my camera is not watching. We should have one more.
There should be one more mic somewhere.
Don't walk out with the mics, please.
We need one back here.
Everybody squeeze together. Come on, guys and ladies.
Yeah, guys, if you're on your knees, make sure, yeah, you're up high on your, yes, perfect.
And once again, any pictures that are taken are available on our Facebook page.
Stay there. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Wait, no, wait. Can we get teachers up here?
Yes. Mr. Eckert and Mr. Saglambini from Riverside School, I failed to mention, they were part of course, this challenge. Come up for the picture, please. Yes, Miss Grubb, come up from Watson School.
Everybody squeeze over. Squeeze over, ladies.
Third row, third row.
I did say Mrs. Bond.
There you go.
Perfect. Look this way, big smile. 1, 2, 3.
I don't know if I mentioned Mrs. Bach as well, the principal of Riverside School. Should be very proud of her staff and students. Bye, guys.
And can I just shout out a thank you for letting the 5th grade iPads go home?
Oh, without a doubt, a decision earlier this year by the board to allow 5th grade to take iPads home. This would not have happened if students were not permitted to take them home. That's true. Thanks, Mrs. Rice.
You, Mrs. Elder.
And I think we're, whoever said it, oh, wait.
Usually when the crowd clears out.
Yep. Yes, especially when the next line is blood transfusions.
I'll see you, so, all right? Bye. Thank you for saying hi to me. Now it's going to be cold. I was in that class today, and I said to those kids, you see me play, are you going to pretend you don't know me? Oh, yeah, I'm bullet. Oh, yeah, what?
It seems like the room is tilted. Is there something wrong with that side of the room?
Why doesn't everybody move towards the middle or something? We're looking at the great expanse there, the great plains.
So, why are all the administrators crowded over here? Do we not like them?
That's right.
Okay, those who have stayed, thank you. But you can really see with the efforts of our staff and certainly what's being achieved by our students, they are the valedictorians and salutatorians of tomorrow. And it's very gratifying to see. So that brings us to the budget, which is part and parcel of this whole picture. So this is our second of our budget information sessions. Tonight we'll be going into a greater detail through Mr. Bartels, and we'll provide an opportunity after the board has asked whatever questions for those members of the audience who would like to ask some questions and do so at that point as it pertains to the budget. Okay, so Mr. Bartels, enlighten us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mason. At the last budget meeting, we went through kind of an overview of the budget. We talked about how the budget right now is a 2.92% increase, budget to budget, and on the tax levy, that's going to equate to a 0.75% increase in the tax levy. And that's due to a formula that's provided to us by the state. The other source of revenue that we have to make up the difference is coming to us through state aid, mostly in building aid, and that's how we're balancing our budget going forward. Tonight, I wanted to talk about looking at the budget in a little bit different way. Each of our administrators has a budget that they have for their own buildings or their own departments. We're going to look at it that way. And then at the end of that, I think we're going to go into a more detailed line-by-line review of the budget. So first, we'll talk about the elementary schools. You can see the change from the prior year. Just about all cases is 0 or less than 0. This has kind of been the way it's been over the last several years. Our administrators have been very good at keeping a lid on their own expenses and working with what they have within their own budgets and not really looking for any large increases. Graphically, you see that for the last 5 years. The only exception we have here is Watson, where a couple of years ago we bumped their budget a little bit so we could get them when they had a large increase in enrollment and added another section in their building. So that's why we brought that budget line up a little bit. Looking at it another way, in dollars per student, all of these budgets are within $5 per student from one building to the next. So they're all right in that same ballpark. So the difference building to building is very close.
Robert, not to jump in, but can you just explain what is this cover? Because clearly it's not staffing, it's not...
No, these are the monies that the building principals have to provide materials within their own building. So there's some instructional materials, some administrative materials that are purchased by the building, by the teachers. It's up to their discretion. Larger purchases, more curriculum change purchases, or large scale purchases, textbooks, things like that, usually come out of Mr. Pelletier's budget or some other part of the budget.
So things like light sale, anything like that's not going to be in here?
Correct. That would not be in with each administrators.
And I noticed you have a history there, but I was wondering if the principals might comment on the history of those budget lines. Are they typically this amount? Because I know as long as I've been on the board, they seem to stay around this number. Has that been the course of the history?
Pretty consistent.
It is. I just have 5 years. If I went back 10 years, you would see the same line. There's really no large change within their budgets.
We're told to come in below zero.
And you do.
See, that's
And we thank you.
Sheila, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, we are definitely told, come in below zero, and that's why our budgets stay within what it,
And you take one packet out of pencils, and now you're below zero.
No, it'll be like something maybe for the middle school, which I know we're not there, but if foreign language, world language needs more of something this year, maybe math's getting a little less. So we
Right.
come out below zero.
And the number stays constant.
Also, if we ever really need something, we can call anyone at Central, and if we need it for our kids, we will get it. So I think that's very important too. And I mean that with the reason, if we don't get $5,000 more to have in our budget each year, if we were to need something, we are very comfortable knowing that we can call over, we will get it.
Okay.
Moving on, the middle school and the high school, again, you're going to see similar numbers. High school tends to change a little bit more with the different programs that they have in the high school. Music and art and athletics also stay fairly stable as far as their budgets. Athletics has a little bit of an increase next year, and I believe that's due to the girls. Is that the girls lacrosse?
Yes, it's a potential increase depending on the ruling by the state to mandate girls to wear a lacrosse helmet. Right now, they implemented an optional rule for girls to wear a headgear, which is not a hard helmet. It doesn't have a safety standard. It doesn't have to be recertified like all of our other helmets. So pretty much the districts across Nassau County are kind of waiting on the state to see what happens, but there is a potential that lacrosse helmets will be mandated, and then I would have to buy for high school and middle school. So this is the potential of it.
When does it look like they would make that decision?
Nobody's moving very fast. So right now, I know one school out of all the schools in Nassau County are buying for this season. Everybody else is opting not to. We're waiting for the standard to come in. So potentially for the spring of 2018, so next spring season.
Next spring season?
Yeah.
So that one school that's buying helmets, will they be permitted to wear those helmets while the other girls are not wearing helmets?
Yes, because it's not a helmet. There's a distinction. It's not a helmet. It's a headgear. It's soft it's soft and squishy, so it was deemed, I don't know by whom, but it was deemed that if I'm wearing a helmet and John is not wearing a helmet, if I hit him, I'm not going to hurt him. But what it would protect possibly is like a ball, it will help balls, it will help like a stick, if a stick hits the face or something to that effect.
If the budget can sustain the 2% increase, why wouldn't we do the helmet to err on the side of caution?
There is absolutely no research stating that it will help anything. It's not necessarily not designed to prevent concussions. They're not. It's just right now. Somebody just designed it and it's out there and it's just starting. My gut instinct is that this is what they're putting out this year, and then there's actually going to be a standard for next year, and then we're going to have to spend another $13,000. So everybody's we're all on the same page with
John,
this.
I got to tell you that I've been in discussions, and she and I actually had a discussion about this. One of the real concerns about the introduction of this additional equipment is that it's going to change the game completely, and that it is moving in the direction of accepting more violence in the game, when in fact the way by not putting these things on the girls, there has been some very strict enforcement of rules and regulations that have kept injuries to a minimum, and some of the violence, which I guess is built more into the boys' game than the girls.
Right.
So that's one of the call it conventional wisdom or whatever it may be. It's one of the reasons why there's not a wholesale movement in the direction of using whatever this headgear may be, supposedly, which does not protect the girls much more than what they have right now. So the discussion is, do we really want the game to change dramatically? I'm not sure if that's going to be resolved at the same time. But I think we're a few years away before any kind of mandate is going to be imposed on either the State Athletic Association or anything at the local level in Section 8.
This has been a discussion for 4 years at this point, so they're just keep on discussing it.
Right. Having had a daughter many years ago play lacrosse in middle school without helmets, at that point, I don't even believe there were mouthpieces.
No, there were no mouthpieces. Now they've added goggles.
And they may be tightening up on the rules and watching, no purposeful sticks and such, but it's those inadvertent high sticks that are really concerning. So it's like you said, it's a question of enforcing the rules and getting everybody on the same page. But as parents, we were very close our eyes many times when she was out on the field and going after the ball as she was.
As we do with any sport.
Yes.
What is our experience with our
Injuries.
girls and injuries for lacrosse?
Very few head injuries. We've got a couple of knees, ankles, and other injuries, but I didn't do a survey, but very few that I recall.
I think that would be an interesting piece of data for ourselves is, concussion-based injuries.
Oh, there have been no concussions on those.
concussions?
No. I was kind of thinking scratches and stuff like that, or, there's probably more head injuries from bowling, not getting hit in the head with a stick. But do they get hit? Yeah, it's a sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's
But
a
no
field, and there's a whole
concussions?
bunch of girls running around.
No concussions.
No, not that I recall, no.
That's good to hear. But, okay.
Well, definitely not last year. I don't have that good of a memory.
Were you
I could look. What? I have been concussed, actually.
Have you been
That explains it. And I was wearing a helmet.
Okay.
Okay. And then just a graphical representation of these budgets. Some of the rest of the curriculum budgets that we have, well, under Mr. Pelletieri. New curriculum, some of those increases are due to science curriculum, increasing some of our digital content, and I believe the increase, we added $20,000 for robotics, and that's within Ms. Pelletieri's budget as well.
And that's one of the things.
If I could just jump in on those for a second. The first one, Robert, you said?
Science.
Yes, New York State is in the process of adopting K through 12 new science standards. They are still working on a timeline and a rollout, but we do have to begin that process. There's talk of moving the 4th grade science test into the 5th grade in the 2010 school year, so that will require some.
Not the 2010.
So that happened a few years ago, Chris.
That was a few years ago, 2010?
2010 came and went.
I was
Another year.
concussed once as well. Guy hit me, I wasn't looking. No, not very recently, Mr. Mason, thank you. I apologize, in the 2020. I saw you nodding your head, and I said, why is she saying that? I'm sorry, 2020 school year. 4th grade test moving to 5th grade, and we need to begin that process. We're looking at either going to K-1 or K-2. We actually are beginning a pilot in a couple of our classrooms this year with some new materials, so those are some significant changes that we need to be prepared for. Robert talked about online content. We constantly are looking for opportunities to move from paper text into digital content with iPads. We've moved global studies and U.S. history and middle school history, social studies throughout the years up through 9th grade. Online content, we're going to look to do that, be prepared to do that for 10th grade as well this next year. And the last piece you mentioned, Robert.
The robotics one.
Robotics, which we've talked a great deal about here, and that $20,000 that was added to my budget. Thank you, Robert.
And they will thank you too.
Is online textbooks and all that, are you finding that's more expensive than the paper version? Is that costing the district more money to go that route?
It's interesting. I would have felt that it would come down immediately, the price. I don't think it's more expensive. I think it's comparable, which is really a shame. The distributors have figured out a way to make sure that you have to keep coming back to them. They give you 5 or 6 year deals, and then after 5 or 6 years, you're going to purchase new materials. You have to release the materials, so to speak, get them back because they have a shut-off after that 6 years that you can't use them. We had a 5-year, 6-year cycle anyway, where we would go through and take a book that was 5, 6 years old, a science book or something with many of the changes that had taken place. We would look to bring in new materials anyway at that time. So it's comparable. I wouldn't say that it's definitely more, but it's not less, which we would have expected it to be.
Right. Well, one of the reasons we went to iPads was to hopefully save some money. So we incurred the cost of the iPad, plus now we're incurring the same cost of books, so it really hasn't worked out in that way.
It hasn't fully as we expected it to. There is more and more material going out on the web for free. More and more states are pushing that. California had a big initiative on that a couple of years ago. The federal government says they're going to have a warehouse where they're going to start to do this type of thing as well, free public resources, and I hope that New York State goes along with that.
What we need to mention here is that when we talk about digital texts, we're not just talking about a conversion of just what was in the printed book before and a replacement of that for the kids for use on a computer. The in-depth information that's available to them as backup to whatever the text may have been before is in fact what enables, or really is the value added in having us use the electronic means for accessing information, so that it gives kids a very, very different experience than sitting with a simple textbook. So that, yes, there is comparable expense, but the access to additional information is just almost unfathomable. It just continues to get deeper and deeper.
Mr. Murphy?
That is true. I think where you're going to see the economies of scale come in the replacement cost. The majority of our textbook budget is twofold. It's one, when we buy a new textbook, but every year there's an average of 8 to 10% in terms of loss, damage, and replacement books. With the e-books, that no longer exists. We never lose a book. It's always there electronically. We'll always get it back in the shape that we returned it. So over time, I would expect to see that's significant. But that's going to take a few years before we start seeing those costs. Even if the books are comparable in price, I think there's a significant savings.
Currently, Light Sail is through 8th grade?
That's correct. In grades 5 through 8.
In grades 5 through 8.
Right.
So what about in our high school, are we moving on to digital readers? Are we?
Not specifically light sail in high
No,
school.
no.
But we are doing more online content. When John and I speak about budget and curriculum changes, we always talk about what is it that we're purchasing that we're going to move online now that we used to purchase in paper or pencil. And social studies is an example of that. And I know ELA and a couple of the IB courses are starting to come in now with digital content.
Moving away from digital for a minute.
I didn't answer that question. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Are there programs similar to Light Sail for younger grade levels or even higher grade levels?
You could do it at younger levels. The students don't have iPads in their classrooms right now, so that makes it more difficult. At the higher levels, I tell you, our students at the middle school, they use it mostly in support classes or for independent reading. A 40-minute period, it's like 39 minutes. It's really precious time. It's hard to dedicate time where you're coming back. You might have dear time, drop everything and read after lunch or when you first come in from class at the elementary level. You don't have those opportunities at the middle school level. So there's a lot of instruction that's taking place. So it's harder to use those programs such as Light Sail at the secondary level.
And have we, things like in the high school level, Macbeth, are we reading it are we still reading paper? Are we switched over to iPads, or are we doing both? Is it?
We are doing both. There's two things at stake: copyright and flexibility, and the age of the student.
John, would you mind using a mic so that, because we, okay.
Okay. Copyright.
And turn it on?
I was just holding it. Right.
Yeah.
Pretty demanding.
Speaking of digital content, there you go. You want to become...
Glasses.
It's a button maybe on the bottom.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Yes.
There are two things, and this is complicated. I don't mean to belabor this. There's the copyright of the text that we're talking about. There's the age of the student, and there's what the student is doing with the text. Texts that are less than 100 years old are not out free on, bless you, on the internet. We buy those in hard copies still because they're more economical to do so. We had existing copies of them, and it doesn't pay us to buy them online. The older books, they are free and online. And yes, the majority of our text, there's a transition that we're undergoing now. I'm going to say roughly 50% of our books are now electronic in the English curriculum, and 50% are not. I would caution the goal to be 100% electronic. That's great, but there is something about, and students will tell you this, about having a physical book in front of you. Depending on the activity, you know, if you want students to pine and for something, take it away from them. And you know, you're seeing your students going, please give me more books. It's not something you hear every day. So there is something, and depending on what the student is being asked to do with the book, there is still something to be said for the hard copies, and you'll see that existing in the budget. So there is a transition. It's acceptance of reality that students have to understand how to read in the different media, but I just caution thinking that the goal is to go 100% digital.
Yeah, I think when the readers that we celebrated tonight start to arrive at the high school in 10th and 11th grade.
That may be true. And because we have a cadre at the high school who aren't as fluent as the elementary and middle school kids, because that's all they know.
I think it's the more the parents be afraid to lose the paper than the kids.
Your parents are used to having the paper and reading the paper and growing up with that.
There's also the ability to annotate. It's different on an iPad than it is on a piece of paper.
Yes, and the annotated versions on the iPad have gotten significantly better very, very quickly. The arc has been significant in even 12 months. The e-readers, the annotation, but it's still not the same. I'll give you an example. If I'm taking notes on my iPad and I have an e-book, which one am I doing? Right? I'm either taking hard copy notes and reading electronically, or vice versa. So there has to be a fluidity here with regard to the text, the engagement, and what we're asking the kids to do. It's happening, but it's very unpredictable, as Mr. Pelletieri said.
Chris, getting off of technology for a minute and curriculum, cursive writing, is it coming back?
You know, that's a good question. New York City had a big piece a couple of weeks ago about cursive writing. They were celebrating the fact they were bringing cursive writing back into the curriculum. Cursive writing was not something that left Rockville Center when Common Core came in, and that's something I know our principals can speak about, to actually ask them about that. So I don't know if someone wants to jump in about cursive writing in their building, but it's not something that needs to come back in Rockville Center.
Joan has it.
It'll come out of your budget if you break it, John.
Okay, so anyway, school, we never stopped teaching.
Joan, go.
I think you could say at all the elementary schools.
I mean, we teach it in third grade. We've always taught it. I don't think children use it as much today. I personally...
You're supposed to speak into it, not just bang on it while you talk.
I personally believe that everybody in Rockville Center learns cursive writing, but I think many children stop using it rapidly. I really do. But we know children have to learn how to sign their names, so of course we make sure they know how to do that. We encourage it. We encourage them to write in cursive, but most of them don't. If they choose to, it's fine. I don't think it really matters because everything is, on a computer today, people type, and it's not as important, but we certainly teach it completely.
Thank you, Mrs. Waldman. There was a concern, again, when Common Core first rolled out. Cursive writing is not in the Common Core. And as you know, as Dr. Johnson has said to us many times in this community, we did not run out and jump out and start doing everything that the Common Core told us to do. We still did things the Rockville Center way, and that is an example of the Rockville Center way.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Robert. Thank you.
Moving on to technology, just other things in Chris's budget, just for the public's knowledge. He has all the textbooks in there, all the staff development, workshops. We do a lot of training of teachers all the time. Everything associated with curriculum is within his budget. As far as technology, that's a budget we have for all the technology within the district. It's all the infrastructure for the computers themselves, the laptops, the iPads, for both instructional and administrative use. So that's the entire technology budget. Data processing is the software that we use in various programs throughout the district. Some of the increases that are due there are due to the light sale program that we've heard extensively about. Another big increase is something called Finance Manager, which is an administrative software package that we do for all of our accounting. We have to go through a conversion for that for next year, so there's going to be an increased cost of that. And graphically, to how these budgets have been working. For the administrative budgets, the superintendent has a budget which has no change for the last couple of years. The district clerk, which is legal expenses and running the elections. We have business budget, which is our general liability insurances, personnel, other business costs of running business offices. We have a security budget, which at this point is really just materials and supplies for our security staff. It used to be much higher. We used to do all the fingerprinting. The state has taken that away from us, so we have to go to certain places to do fingerprinting. We used to use that as a revenue source and do a lot of fingerprinting for not only ourselves but other districts, but that allowance has been taken away by the state. They now require us to go to certain vendors to have that done. And then you see the total district-wide administration. And a graphical representation. And we have our special education budget under Dr. Leahy. That varies from year to year. You can see in 15-16 there was large reduction in that budget, and then it started to go back up again. It's very difficult to project the students in that. We have a number of districts, a number of students who go to out-of-district placement programs, to BOCES programs, which are very expensive programs. Dr. Leahy, works very hard every year trying to bring students back, and we do bring a number of students back each year. We also have our RISE program within that budget. That's a new program that we started this year and is doing terrifically. Dr. Leahy, talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the special ed budget is, I guess, it's a little more secretive. It's not as flashy, I guess, as curriculum and instruction, where you actually see things. Obviously, this meets the needs of individual students, and we really don't know from year to year who is coming in as a new entrant or may need something as time passes in our own district. Each year, those costs increase, even if the numbers of students going out don't. The out-of-district placement costs do increase. We did have expanded some of our in-district programs to facilitate really more enriched instruction, particularly in the life skills program. The renovation brought us, really beautiful kitchen area for our core classroom at the high school, and that had to be fitted, and we'll continue to need to spend a little money on that to fit that and conduct the training that goes along with that. We expanded the pre-vocational program, bought a lab for that. The RISE program, which is situated at Hewitt, and Ms. Pryke and her staff just got off to a really amazing start. It's really very, very heartwarming, I think, to visit that classroom. If you ever get a chance, you should. And that is poised to expand next year, and that will cause us to put a little bit more money.
Explain what the RISE program is?
Oh, yeah, so the RISE is Reaching Individual Success Every Day, is what it stands for, and it's a program for students with developmental delays, right now specifically for students on the autistic spectrum. This year we have 5 kindergarten students. We have 4 entering from Rockville Center residents and 1 out-of-district student. We are already becoming talked about, and there's a little buzz in the special ed community, so we've had some inquiries to bring other children into the program, which is very exciting to us. Our children are doing beautifully. Ms. Pryke has moved 2 of them into guided reading with their typically developing peers, so that's really what we had hoped for and more. But with that expansion and, as the students progress, we figure out other things that we need for that program, and that has been put into the budget as well. In addition, I guess the textbooks for my psychologists are their psychoeducational testing materials, and every once in a while, just like textbooks and the publishers of textbooks, the publishers of these tests change them. So next year, we're looking at a fairly significant expenditure for psychoeducational testing. And then with the iPads that Mr. Pelletrieri brought us, there's all sorts of assistive technology in the form of apps, and so we find ourselves increasing our budget to pay for those apps for special students with disabilities.
Okay. The next 2 budgets, both summer school and community education, are both overseen by Dr. Leahy as well. The summer school budget, just for a note, is mostly in salaries, so that's why this number doesn't look so high as far as the $29,000. The reason it's going to $99,000 is we are now running this program through BOCES, so that $70,000 is a BOCES fee that we have to pay to have this program run through them. They do all of the payroll and some of the administrative duties for that. By running the program through BOCES, we're able to generate additional revenue for the district, which goes a long way in supporting our budget. So it ends up costing us less overall to run the program through BOCES than it would to continue to run it on our own.
Well, I'm sorry. Why didn't this get reflected then in the 16-17 budget?
They actually changed the way that they applied the fee. BOCES in the first year applied a percentage fee to salaries, to everything, which wouldn't have been reflected in this budget. Now there's an amount that they just front load on us, and then they don't nickel and dime us. So it's actually a reduction in administrative fees overall, but but it's now in this budget versus salaries.
Versus salaries,
Okay,
right?
so in plain terms, if it's $99,000 anticipated in the new budget, what did we end up paying in the previous budget where we were nickel and dimed?
It was a percentage increase applied to each of the expenditures that may not have been reflected here. The amount, I don't have off the top of my head.
Right.
It's
Yeah, we usually do a report. Dr. Leahy does a report every year to
Yeah, I
kind of compare one year to the next.
Well, I'd
So-
just like to see how it relates back to the $99,000.
Sure.
And also, I just want to go back for a second to the special ed budget. I should note also that both the RISE program and the core programs that we have do provide us with a great deal of revenue. We do charge for out-of-district students that come to us to educate them through those programs. So that is another source of revenue for the district that helps us continue to run those programs and support our budget.
It's also, Noreen has created a program that's better than the programs we could send our students to. So that was one of the causes for developing the program. So it benefits the students of Rockville Center more than, just bringing people in. It's focused to their needs and very specific to what, she has designed it so it benefits them to the maximum. Right?
So we strive for.
Alternatively, we'd be sending those students
Yes.
out
Keeps those
at a
students
greater
here.
cost than to keep them in-house and give them what we feel is the best education.
They were all at the wedding of Q and U, and I was crying like I was the mother of the bride. It really was very, very beautiful. They did really beautifully.
Mrs. Pike, can you talk about how that class has integrated into Hewitt's population, since you bring up that they came to the wedding?
They did. The RISE students were the vowels at the wedding, and they are part of our kindergarten classrooms every day. So they spend time at art, at movement, at guided reading. They have recess and lunch every day with the students. They spend time every day in the kindergarten classrooms. And one of the things that we just started about a month ago was Fabulous Friends. So we have 5 friends from the kindergarten classrooms who come down and join the RISE boys in their classroom. So it goes both ways. The children are part of every field trip and every event that we have. We have an event coming up where they're doing musical math. So every part of the day, they are integrating in the typical 4 kindergarten classrooms that we have at school.
Okay. And a graphical representation of those.
Community ed, going back.
What's that?
On community education.
Community education.
I guess, Noreen, is this the 16,
Well,
$9,000?
One of the main reasons for that is that we experimented with not printing brochures and in paper copy and going to all online links, and unfortunately, we don't think that worked. The enrollment went down, and Chris D'Ambrosio, who is really working very, very hard to really make that program great, and it is, so sign up for a course. It's fabulous. Really, he's brought in some unbelievable things. But in any case, he streamlined it, put all the registration online, which was great. He saved a lot of money in paper and printing costs, but then had to come to me and say, I think we have to print this again. So it increased the budget, and that was the main source of the increases for next year, is what it costs to print the brochures and mail them out.
We're not going to be getting another report until the
fall.
Fall? Okay.
Some of the other budgets we have are benefits. That's our health insurance for staff, retirement system costs, workers' compensation costs, disability, life insurance, things like that. So you see, we were able to keep that to a slight increase. Went over some of those large numbers last time. We were able to keep our health insurance costs down to a 3.8% increase, even though we had premium increases of about 12%. We had reductions in the retirement system costs for the teachers' retirement system, which helped keep that overall change in that large budget line down to under 2%. Payroll is 2.77% increase. That basically takes all the staff we currently have, rolls everybody forward. Some additional staffing I do have in the budget. I have 1 additional contingent teacher, 2 additional teacher aides, and 2 additional teacher assistants. At this point, that's what it would fund. That's for contingent staffing positions. For new staffing positions, I have 1 additional groundsman, district-wide, which we had cut a few years ago. I'd like to add that back to keep track of our grounds and our buildings. I have an additional custodial position here at the high school, as well as an additional security position here at the high school for night events. So we would have somebody here every night for all the different activities we have here in this building.
Since you brought up staff real briefly, I was wondering if we can somehow hear how the math support is going with the teaching assistant in each elementary school. If anybody can provide some feedback from that program that was asked for.
I'd love to have more. No doubt. No doubt. We pull from our teacher assistant staff from AIS for ELA, at least I did at Wilson. I pulled from the ELA into the math. We pull from ELA to cover other individual needs. And during these budgetary times, under the 2% tax cap, there's no room for wiggle for additional staff during the years. So I got to tell you, at Wilson School, I'm down 2 TAs over the past 2 years. It's very tight. TAs, we get our best bang for our buck, for sure. We really do.
At Riverside, having the math TA has been a godsend. This person sees students every period for 7 periods a day. They see up to 5 students at a time, sometimes groups of 2, 3, 4, or 5, depending on the needs. That's every day for 6 days of the cycle. It is a godsend. I don't know what we would do without it.
I have someone who's absolutely fantastic. She is book solid all day long. I can't even tell you how great she is and how thrilled my teachers are with this kind of support. Thank you for giving us a math TA.
Just a side question, I don't know who wants to answer it, but with regards to TA versus teacher, I know we had discussed in prior years, instead of having a TA, have a teacher assigned to each school. Do you feel that there's any greater need for a teacher now, having experienced 1 or 2 years with a teaching assistant, or is it fine the way it is?
I think it's monetary. Of course, our dream would be to have a math implementation teacher in each building, but you know, I think there are monetary constraints. So the reason that we didn't ask for that was because we felt that we could do something terrific with TAs, and eventually, if we could afford to have a math TA, a math teacher in each building, we certainly would ask for that.
Yeah, and I just think we should be clear. We never discussed having a math implementation teacher in each building.
Right.
We discussed having 1 additional teacher that would be split between all 5 buildings, and instead...
Right, I know there was conversation about additional teachers.
Right,
No, teacher. It was one teacher versus 5 TAs.
Right, and
So I
we
just
felt that
don't-
we would get more
Right, so
with
just
one TA than one with a third math implementation teacher
Right, that-
divided in the 5 buildings. So the one TA that we each got is working great.
Thank you.
And for those who don't know, we have how many math implementation teachers for the 5? We have 2, right.
And my point is, we have our reading implementation teachers, and we have 2 or more per building on reading. No, 1?
No.
No.
Riverside has 1, right?
Riverside, you have 1? And the others have 2?
No.
Yes? No?
Two.
Chris?
Yeah, 2.
How many reading support teachers do we have?
AIS reading. So
Right.
our AIS program, our AIS teacher, so I have 2 covered.
I have 1.5. 3.
I have 3 and then a reading recovery. Different line in the budget.
Actually, I have 1.5, and you can count that position as 0.5, reading recovery or reading discovery. But as Mrs. Walden said, given a choice, of course we would love a math implementation teacher in every building. But with that being said, we'd rather have a TA over 3 math teachers.
Right.
Because it just would really, because of the scheduling and traveling from building to building, you'd end up losing time and having one person all day under the guidance of Benino and Mrs. Benino and Mrs. Gunther.
Now, if we could get 3 math implementation teachers and the 5 math TAs, we would think that would be great. Right, Mr. Pelletieri?
I guess the more the merrier, right? I mean, if you could do that.
See, I was going with...
Look at his face.
I was going with 5 math teachers, and that's
You
it.
need to start with the governor and ask his permission.
Well, I was saying, maybe if we
Ask the
eliminate the
governor
tax.
for permission.
All right,
Get a
thank you.
signed note.
Maybe we can discuss it under staffing. Yes.
And we'll be talking a little bit more about staffing next week.
Well, it's not next week, on the
next board
22nd.
meeting.
Yeah.
Our transportation budget, we have that down a good percentage in reviewing all of our contracts from year to year. We are down in some of the costs due to competitively bid contracts that we've done countywide over the last few years. We've been able to save a good deal of monies, so we've been able to bring that budget line down a little bit. Our facilities budget is also down slightly, mostly due to some reductions in our utility costs around the district. But that's, our facilities costs are really everything to run our buildings, maintain our grounds, and so forth, from the custodial maintenance end.
So, even with air conditioning, that's coming down.
Even with the air conditioning, that is coming down.
That's shocking.
We were surprised when going through the bills this year with the first full year of having the air conditioning in all our buildings, we are not seeing an increase in our costs. Now remember, this is on top of recently putting in place the energy performance contract, where we did do a lot of upgrades in sealing our buildings and so forth. So I think it's through a combination of those things that we're not seeing any large increase.
I saw a big increase in electric this year.
In transportation,
Yes.
a number of weeks ago, a member of the audience asked us to check out purchasing of the bus garage. I believe you did some work on that in terms of comparing our contracts to what those costs would be?
Well, we have done some comparisons with some of the other districts who do run their own transportation, and found that our cost per student is much less than theirs. In addition to, obviously, the buses, you'd have to pay the drivers. There's a lot more liability costs and personnel costs associated with that, as well as the insurance that goes along with that, maintaining the site, purchasing a facility to do that. So I think we're in much better shape doing it the way we do it by contracting out and just having some small buses to deal with some of those expensive private school runs.
Okay.
And that facilities and facility.
And then the last budget item here is debt service. We have the remaining portion of our bonds from all of our capital construction. The last increase due to the debt service is in this budget, which is why there's the fairly large increase in the debt service line. But again, that's being offset, fortunately, by we're going to begin to get the state aid on building aid on our projects. We get a little bit over 30% now off of every dollar that we spend. So that money is coming back to us over a period of time. So that goes to offset these numbers. Those numbers, as I mentioned earlier, also go to impact that tax cap calculation, which is why our increase in the tax levy is limited to 0.75% this year instead of a little bit higher number. The CPI was 1.26 for all school districts. So, but once we put all the different numbers into our tax cap calculation, it comes out for Rockville Center to be 0.75%.
Do we have, or when will we have old debt coming off?
2 more years.
2 more years. And have we consolidated that debt? Like, and was it?
Yes, a few years ago, we did do a consolidation. We refunded 3 different bonds, combined them into one, and that's the one that's going to be dropping off in 2 more years. The other bonds that we have, that we've issued over the last couple of years, will not be allowed to be refinanced for a period, probably at least 10 years to be refinanced.
Thank you.
I think we're waiting until the end. Again, a graphical representation, a couple of these budgets, benefits. We've done the best we can to try to keep that to a relatively stable budget. Payroll, you can see, has been going up fairly consistently. And transportation coming down a little bit this year. Facilities has been pretty stable. And you see the increases due to the debt service increases coming on over the last few years. Just one other way to look at it briefly. We kind of put our budgets together according to state coding. So the way we're going to look at our budget in a few minutes is by functional area. We start out with a different series of codes. Well, 1,000 series codes are general support codes, 2,000 are instructional, 5,000 transportation, 6,000 and 7,000 or 7,000, 8,000 are community services, and 9,000 are different benefits. So looking at it in that way, the 1,000 series is up about $27,000. That's all administrative. And this includes all payroll and personnel, by the way. It includes central office, personnel, operations and maintenance, and our general BOCEs and insurance costs. All the instructional codes for instructional technology, special education services, and all the instructional codes that we have, including athletics. An increase of a little over $2 million, 3.34%. That's the greatest portion of that budget increase. Transportation services, the 5,000 services are down overall about a little under 5%. The youth and community services have been relatively the same. Those are really the overtime costs that we have associated with outside groups using our facilities. Again, we're not expecting any change in these costs.
Somebody's cell phone?
Clear.
And the last area is the 9,000 series codes, all of our benefits. as I kind of mentioned before, is up 1.1 million or 4%. So that's kind of a summary, a couple of different ways of looking at the budget. I think the normal way that we've been looking at the budget over the last couple of years is kind of by functional area, which is the 2-page summary that we should have out. There's also a 23-page summary, which gives a little bit more detail of each of the different functions.
Yes, we're going to start to go through the 2-page summary. If board members have questions on any particular item, we can then refer to the detail that's in the 23-page detail budget that's provided. Also, as a guide, we put out a budget code index that looks like this. That'll help you guide as to if you're talking about a particular building or the codes as to what area they're in. It'll get you pretty close to where what we're discussing. So we'll try to get through as much of this as we can. I have an ambitious schedule, but we'll see what happens. So first is the 1000s, which is one other thing. We're not going to be discussing staffing or the revenue side of the budget this evening. We will be going over that at our next meeting. So, back to in the 1000s, from 1010 to 1981. Is there any questions of any of the board members? And as I said before, members of the public, when we get through this, wherever we are at that point, I'll open the floor up for questions for what we've gone over.
1680 data processing, it's going up 11%. Is there any particular reason?
That was some of the light sale costs as well as the finance manager increases.
Right, that's what you said before.
Right.
Thank you.
I just had a question, John Scalisi. Hi. You haven't talked all night, so I thought you should get a question. It's only fair.
He can figure out the microphone.
Right. So we have 2 beautiful new turf fields. One's brand new. What are we doing to maintain them? Are they being maintained? How are they? How's the not so new one holding up?
Actually,
I guess this is a joint.
The fields are holding up very well. We do have the equipment which was purchased when the first field went in to groom the fields. So we've been trying, there's monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly maintenance that we do on the field. What we do is we have a machine that will go out and it sweeps the field. It redistributes the rubber on the field so that as what we found over time is as the kids play, it actually forces the rubber down to the end zones. So we have to use the machine to bring it back and level the field again.
From what I understand, you have to go to people's homes and pick it up and bring it back also.
Yes. I have a whole pile at home for you.
We actually have a purchase order out right now to have the company come in and do the GMAX test on it, which will tell us how much the field is compacted and the shock on the field. That has to be done on a yearly basis, so that's scheduled to be done. And with that, they'll be doing an over maintenance on the field, the company that installed it, Land Tech.
And that'll be done before the start of spring season or after?
Yes. Yeah, the purchase order's out there.
No, spring season already started.
It started.
But I mean,
Yeah, they'll come in and do the test and the grooming on it.
It's going to snow tomorrow, so they're not going to be out there. No, it's not. It's going to snow Friday.
Friday.
So I keep thinking.
And that's the nice thing with the synthetic field is that you can play in the rain and in the inclement weather.
Is that nice?
And the snow?
And the snow.
And our teams are using the new half field?
How's that working out?
Yeah, how is that working out?
Completely awesome. Monday was the first day of spring sports, and normally there are 15 buses that go out, and it's like chaos because the bus company's not used to it. We had 2 buses going out. one for baseball, and it was just amazing. So we are dividing and conquering. They didn't have to be, because of the main field and the backfield, I could split a team, like split the main field, so they get like an hour using full field, but then they go to the back, and I rotate another team in. So it's really amazing.
Wow.
And they're not here till 10 o'clock at night.
And they're not here till 10 o'clock at night, because our lighting policy won't let us.
Okay. Anyone else in the 1,000 sections? Moving on to the 2,000s. I have a question in guidance, 2810. Is there, what is the $75,000 increase?
It's John's.
Is to the detail to see which building, or is it district?
It's district-wide.
District? Anybody?
2810 is basically salaries. It's a salary increase for the most
Is there an additional, okay, so, but it goes, okay. So that's the same for health service and psychological services is what we were discussing before.
Social worker, psychological.
We actually
Anyone else?
Co-curricular?
budget was this last year we spent more than that. What's this?
How about 2850?
Co-curricular?
Co-curricular, 13% increase?
Yeah, that's part of what we've done with the clubs and activities through negotiations with the teachers. We kind of changed the way we do that, so we're anticipating having additional clubs taking place at the different buildings. We've gotten a number of requests already this year from both the middle school and the high school. So we're expecting some increased costs there.
And that was negotiated through the contracts?
Yes.
And co-curricular also, that's robotics for 20,000, right? Is that part of
No,
that?
that's not part of this cost, but the increase for those robotics teachers would be in that line.
Correct.
So the stipend.
The stipends, yes.
Carol, the interscholastic, Carol, yeah, oh, sorry, I thought you were passing it off to Joe. Interscholastic athletics, it's coming down $11,000, we have one less team.
Where do you see it's down?
2855.
I have a whole lot of 2855s.
Well, I'm looking off the two-sheet.
Oh,
Is that big part is in salaries?
Salaries.
The salary line is down.
I guess for a coach. So that, does that mean that we?
No, it's a pretty,
we're not down anything at the moment.
No, so we have varsity and JV for all of our high school teams?
Correct. We're gonna, this is the last year, we're gonna see if we can field the JV softball team.
And how do we have enough kids to play on?
It's only the third day, so
Right,
I'll
but
let you know by the end of the week.
Okay, so we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know.
Carol, if I can ask, since we're talking about teams, how is the boys' swim team, how's that all working out?
Really amazing. This is, we're combined with Limbrook. We have 12 every year so far. This is the third year. We have 12 kids. They have 12 kids. One of our athletes, our ninth grader, made it to states this past weekend, Ryan Davidoff. So that was, and it was right at Eisenhower, so that was quite nice to see. But they've merged as Southbrook now, where the first year it was kind of like the Limbrook swimmers were here and the Southside swimmers were there. So it's actually working out very well.
And the merger saves us money, too?
Yes, correct. We basically split the busing fees, we split the rental fees, we actually split everything. Limbrook has one coach, and we pay for our coach, and then everything else we split.
And I hear our wrestling also is
Yes,
split?
we've merged, this is the first year we've merged with East Rockaway. They only had a few wrestlers, so in terms of, like Limbrook, we split everything down in half. For year one, we do it percentage, based on how many kids, how many athletes they have.
It's a good direction. I'm
Very
glad to
good
see that.
direction. There were three very successful wrestlers that have never wrestled at all. And through experience with our athletes at Southside and our coaches, they had a really good year. So now they're very excited over at East Rockaway.
Cool, thank you.
There was fear the aquatic center was going to close for repairs. That was a big issue last year or the year before.
Oh,
What they
that's
did
every
just-
year. Every year. Every year.
They just,
And it closes down and it opens back up and it looks exactly the same.
okay.
And it has the same leaks.
And it seemed like, okay. Robert, substitutes, there was a sort of a bit of a jump in the substitute line. Are we changing the way we're getting substitutes?
No, we've been overspending that line year to year. So this just kind of brings it more in line with our actual expenditures.
It's mostly permanent subs?
It is mostly permanent subs, but depending on obviously how many we have out in any given year, we have additional costs for per diem subs that come in also. They tend to get longer when we have, when we have maternity leaves. People that are out on long-term leaves push
That also
those
comes out of
numbers
this
up.
line, this long-term stuff. Okay.
What are we paying permanent subs right now?
$100 a day.
Is that compatible to what other districts are paying? I'm seeing no.
That is low.
It's on the low end of the spectrum. Who makes the calls does the interviewing for these people? I mean, are they finding it harder to find subs? I'm seeing yes.
Well, yeah, you may want to talk to the principals about that, but I can tell you for a fact that and there are many days in the secondary schools where we can't find subs. And the reason is that we're not competitive. And there is a shrinking pool of substitutes that are available on a day-to-day basis. We have at the elementary level the advantage of offering people employment every day, and that seems to be enough of an incentive to populate our school on a regular basis with our permanent subs. But even there, we have turnover, a lot more than we used to, and it is because those permanent subs are getting jobs elsewhere.
So what is competitive? Is it benefits or is it just salary? Or both?
Well,
salary.
It would be...
What's that competitive mark?
We pay 100 a day.
No, we do, but what do they say they're getting?
Yeah.
130 to 150.
Is there any way before we hear our staffing needs, if we can get a comparison of what other districts are paying?
Well, we could get that as well, but I also would like to know, what kind of difficulties we're having with meeting our current needs, whether it's and separate from elementaries are particular needs because we have many of the long-term subs there, but also with the secondary schools.
I can speak for the middle school, and in saying that we have, we're allowed to have 7 permanent subs for the building, right? And they get paid $100 a day. And they're wonderful, and we love having them, and we move them we have a lot of, this year, we have a lot of people going out on maternity leaves. So we'll move a permanent sub in to become that leave replacement for that 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, because they know the school, they know it's it's wonderful. But then we go to hire a temporary permanent sub to take over, and as we're hiring these temporary permanent subs that we're only hiring literally for 6, 8, or 12 weeks, they'll tell us, and they have told me in interviews that, well, I get $125 in this district, and this district is $135. And I said, well, I'm offering you something that is definitely 12 weeks straight for $95 a day, or 100, we give them the temporary permanent subs. I think, then 75 is, the middle school is the TAs. But anyway, my point being is that as they come in and we're trying to fill these temporary permanent sub positions, we can't, because these are also like professional substitute teachers, some of these people, and they're looking to make more money somewhere else. And a lot of the school districts have gone to the computer system, which we haven't, and which is what would be for the secondary level. We have the lists sub-service, and she's having a hard time getting people on her service, where she used to have a pool of 25 to 30 people to to pull from. I believe she has 6
Yeah.
at this point, or 7, and that's because if you're a per diem sub, it's $95 a day. So to get per diem, and there are days, for example, where we are doing a professional development. And so you're a department, we're doing something with the department and it's really great. Well, a department in the middle school is 10 to 12 teachers. We have 7. That's provided, nobody's sick, nobody's absent, and we haven't used everybody to be taking the leave replacements for the long-term subs for the teachers who are pregnant. So we're pulling people from the halls, we're pulling TAs from, we have a couple certified TAs, we're pulling them out of places. It's bad. I mean, here's my opinion. We need to pay them more so we can get more.
Thank you.
I'm done now.
How's the high school? Is it comparable?
And
Just like the middle school?
And if I could wait, John, if I could just say this, everyone is also very good about helping each other. I will say all the elementary schools, the high school, the middle school, we're very good about helping each other. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be in a bind, and there's something happened. Riverside sent somebody over for us because we knew in advance when we're in a bind. But then there are also the days that you don't know in advance because you don't know that someone got the flu last night or their children got the stomach virus so you think you're planning and you've got it all set for the 10 and all of a sudden it turns to 17.
Right.
And I just want to say that everyone's very helpful.
I would like to see a comparison of other school districts and possibly what like you said, some schools are moving to a computer system?
We have a computerized system.
We looked at it, but here's what would happen with it. I know it was looked at a couple of years ago. So here I am, Sheila McGinn, and I'm a substitute teacher. I'm not really, but just say I was. And I look on the computer and I see, oh, there's someone that I'm a special ed teacher. Rockville Center needs me for $100. Long Beach needs me for $125. Where do you think I'm choosing to go?
Rockville Center.
Rockville Center.
No, because you think, it is such a great school district and so much better than everywhere else, but this is my daily rate of pay, and this is how I'm paying my bills. I'm going with the $25 or more.
Understood.
I mean, to be honest, our chaperone pay is can be more. If a teacher goes on an overnight trip, the chaperone pay is more than a permanent sub, will get more than their regular daily rate of pay for the 3 days to go to Washington, D.C. Crazy.
What I would like to maybe have prepared for us is a cost analysis of what the increases would represent and, well, depending on how many...
Depending on what, it becomes difficult because if we're going to increase that number, are we increasing it for all of our permanent subs as well?
Well, that is...
you got basic numbers. You had $100 a day.
That's right. So we need to see what the financial,
and
the fiscal ramifications are.
And it's $1 million. It's $1 million budget line.
It's $1 million
So if we go to
budget line.
120, which isn't as high as I'm hearing,
it's $1 million budget line.
That's a $200,000 increase. So.
It's got to come. It would have to come from somewhere.
And where is it coming from?
Then that's why we need to see some sort of data.
Okay.
Data.
Where is it coming from?
Yep, data. Okay. Continuing on, 50. The transportation budgets, the 55s series. We essentially covered this already.
I might want to just add one other thing to this,
Sure.
and one of the reasons why our budget is I won't say so much lower than those who actually do provide services themselves, is that we do belong to a consortium of school districts in Nassau County, and we purchase our services through BOCES and with them, and collaborate with other school districts in transporting kids in basically all of the small buses that go to the private special education settings throughout Nassau County. So that has been an incredibly saves us probably $200,000 to $300,000 a year.
That's all. 7,000 series.
Excuse me, Mr. Mason. Over here. Transportation, I didn't know the transportation was renegotiated, so that would decrease my transportation budget for athletics too, if we're,
No, but yours
that-
are under the regular contract. Yeah.
all right.
Not the private
I was
schools.
hopeful.
That's where we take
Sorry,
the money.
Carol.
Thanks for trying to help. Try. 7,000 series in recreation and youth programs.
What youth programs?
And what recreation programs?
Yeah, and what
are we running?
recreation? We did recreation? Carol?
No, those are the outside community groups that use our
Ah,
facilities for the
okay.
different things.
Okay.
Whether it's athletics, whether it's Boy Scouts, or any other activities that.
Civic activities, 8060. Okay. And we go on to the 9,000 series, which is employee benefits and debt service. We covered most of this as we were going through your presentation. Anyone else have any other questions in that section before I ask another question? Good? Okay, is there any board member who has questions that need to be asked out of the detail that we have not already covered that don't pertain to staffing and, well, revenue isn't in there? Is there anything that is, that has not already been discussed before we open the microphone up to the public?
Can we just touch on the new equipment?
Sure, give us a code?
Give us a code. A1620, 200, 06, 9,000. 11,000 increase for the middle school. What are we buying?
The 11,557?
For $11,000 for new equipment.
Right.
What's that?
No,
A robotic teacher? That's Chris's budget.
200, 06,
If I may,
Oh,
in that code, we have 3 new cafeteria tables, adjustable stools, chairs for the arts department. We also have 4 portable radios that was requested by the principal to be used during
1620.
fire drills, emergency evacuation for the staff, and a additional water cooler fill station.
Water fountain. Does that replace an existing, or is it new?
We currently have 3 of the filtered systems, and we are looking to get a 4th, and it would replace one of our old water fountains.
what do they run, John? Any idea?
Around $900.
And the cafeteria tables, some of them are falling apart. Literally, pieces are snapping off as we're taking them up and down.
Having sat at one last week, yes.
Yeah, yes, right? We could use a couple new of those. And then chairs, in general, also in some of they're not the classroom typical desks, but it's chairs, like this, that are in the art rooms or in some of the other rooms that use these types of chairs, are cracked.
The portable radios that you're requesting are additional or in place of?
They're additional. We have a portable radio, walkie-talkie for each security person. We don't have one for each administrator. When we do our fire drills, and we have all the different entrances, and this is the SAVE Committee has looked at this and researched this, when we have areas that we don't have instant communication. So, for example, if they're going out the door by they go out the door by room 110, there's not someone there that has a walkie-talkie as the teachers are getting attendance to come up and say, I'm missing so-and-so. So you either have to go down to 118 or around to the front of the building. And that's the same on the side and the back. So we just need, and then the other walkie-talkies, the 5 for the security people, one security person is up in a room with the students who may have a broken leg. That's with a walkie-talkie. So that's why we need them for these purposes, really, for safety.
I just want to add one thing too, John, about that question. If you go down and take a look at 162201, it's a judgment call as to whether or not it should go into either replacement equipment or new equipment. And some of the things that John was describing could in fact be located there. And if you'll see that we dropped by $8,300 there, we zeroed that replacement equipment. When you take a look at the actual overall increase for equipment purchase for the middle school, it's only a $3,000 increase, not a $12,000. So, I mean, when you take a look at the two lines as companions to one another, you begin to realize, I mean, it's not like it's a significant increase as much as it is when you zero out the replacement and then take a look at the other, you're looking at a much smaller increase.
Why did we categorize it that way as replacement equipment?
I don't know, John.
If we're replacing cafeteria tables, why have the confusion in the line? Why didn't you just put those in the replacement line as opposed to new equipment line?
It may have been just an oversight on my part.
Good. Any other overriding details?
Yeah, on page 5 of the 23 packet, 1621-201-05, 9,000. There's a $9,000 increase in replacement equipment also.
And that's in,
It's on Johnstown, right? Operational plan.
that's in Wilson.
Apparently, you're getting $9,000 worth of new equipment.
Nice. George wants an auto scrubber.
That's an auto scrubber?
Auto scrubber, right? Is that correct?
Yes, that's...
What
that's
is an
the
auto scrubber?
$9,000?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the auto scrubber's about $8,000, $8,100.
Is that for the parking lot or for the floors?
It's for the floors. It will allow us to be more effective and efficient in scrubbing our floors. We can actually do it during the day when staff is about the building because it'll clean the floors and vacuum the water up at the same time so there's no residue left on the floor. It's a huge time saver for us, so they're able to do the whole hallway in a lot less time than if they were manually mopping the floors. And it's a great tool to have, especially when we have the snow and the inclement weather when they're tracking the salt and sand into the building.
Is there currently one in the school now?
No, there's not.
No. We have others throughout the district?
Yes, we do.
And
So-
what buildings?
Hewitt has one right now, the middle school has one, high school has one. So I'd like to get one in the rest of the elementary schools, and then over time, eventually replace the ones in the middle school and the high school. They're the older machines to a newer machine.
Is this a machine that can be shared among the buildings, or it really once it's in a building,
Once it's in the
it
building,
resides there?
It stays in the building.
For $9,000, it resides there?
Yes. And it actually helps in our summer cleaning because the machines are small enough where they can actually get into a classroom and scrub the floors instead of using the handheld machines. So it cuts back on the time.
Okay. Ms. McGinn, you have one of those, right? Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, mine's a little old.
Okay.
And a math teacher, I'll take that too.
How about a permanent sub?
Side of another TA.
Don't forget the increase in all the salaries.
I thought that was a given.
We're on page 14, there's a $20,000 increase in supplies general. John, it's 2110, 500, 10, 9,000.
That's the 2110-500, that's the robotics.
Okay.
That's the 20,000 for the robotics.
That's Chris Pelletieri.
Why is that under, supplies, because it's the materials for them. Okay. I believe that was all my questions. Yep.
Anyone else? Down this end? That we haven't covered? Okay. At this point, if anyone from the audience would like to ask any questions on the budget for what we have covered this evening, please come on up right now.
Very quickly, I just want to pay a debt of gratitude, obviously, to Dr. Lay about the recognition that the special needs children and the program that you've put together is getting within the district and outside. I think we all know people who may have a special needs person in their family, a young kid, and especially as it relates to autism, many of those children are visual, so the investment in apps makes complete sense. And so I just wanted to applaud you for that effort, and the people, the board, and the other members of the community that are involved in that. That's terrific. The only question I really had was about the debt service, and my only concern comes from the fact that if you just look at that slide, it really doesn't tell us when some of the debt is going to drop off, at what rates. But what's obvious when you look at it is that it would appear the amount of debt that the debt service is growing, and it's at this point, it's almost doubled within about 3 or 4 years based on what I saw in that projection. And, maybe could you speak to where some of that money is going? And by the way, I don't mean to infer that I don't support it. It's probably legitimately great investment, and I would actually encourage the school to be looking at making investments right now when we're at a rather low rate of interest as it relates to interest rates. But I just want to get a sense of where this is and what, if anything, actions are we taking consistent with that?
Sure. We've had some debt service drop off several years ago, which I think made it a little artificially low, but we are definitely at a higher level of debt service now after the implementation of all the debt service with this new bond than we had been in the past from our previous carrying of debt service. So there is an overall increase in that budget line, all based on the bond issue.
You're standing in it.
Pardon me?
You're standing in it right now.
Okay. You mentioned also about the reimbursement of about 30% for some of it. Is that going to be in one, are we going to see that in one situation? We're going to see it over a period of years?
No.
Over the life of the bond.
That's over the life of the bond. So they expect you to borrow when we
So they're incentivizing
finance
the
that.
district to borrow, and then they'll pay it back gradually.
Yeah, if we were to, say, take out $10 million and spend $10 million in 1 year, they're not going to give us back $3 million, that next year. They're going to spread that out over 15, 20 years.
Yeah, they have their own schedule of payments, by the way, which is not necessarily connected to the borrowing that we have. It's a crazy way in which they do it, but nevertheless, they have a life expectancy of debt. The state makes a decision about how much we're going to get each year on the aggregated total multiplied by 30%, or whatever it is, with 30, it's a little over 30.
A little over 30.
Yeah, it's not 33%. And then they give us payments that usually extend over a 20 to 25-year period. And it's not necessarily connected to the way in which we incur the debt. You would think it would be, but it's not.
No, I understand.
The other problem with it is they don't start to pay you back until your projects are complete and you file the final paperwork. So we haven't really received, although we've had debt service and interest for the last couple of years from the bond, when we first started, we haven't seen any revenue from it until next year. Next year we should see a great deal of it. The majority of it will hit that 1 year, then we'll have that same amount for the next 15 years, and in the second year we should see another little bit bump, as well as all of our projects are finally, all the paperwork gets in.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happens.
Hello, I'm Beth Reynolds, 4 Richmond Road. Thank you so much for putting all this time and attention into the budget. It's obviously extremely difficult and tedious job, and I appreciate your time. I'm here tonight on behalf of the robotics team and to thank you for your support. Dr. Johnson, maybe it was 2 meetings ago when you had started your comments that you would support us and we'll get this done, and we really appreciate that support. And also Mr. Pelletieri and Mr. Murphy. It's been an absolute dream working with you all in getting this accomplished. A few months ago, a few parents came together to galvanize support for 3 main initiatives. One was to get the coaches in robotics at the middle school paid a competitive wage. And by this budget, we've done that, and that was really important to us, so this program is sustainable. 2, the second issue was for us to introduce curriculum, technology curriculum and engineering curriculum at the high school, and at rapid pace and an unprecedented timing. it's already been integrated, and I know there is a bigger plan for the future. So thank you so much. It's fantastic. And thirdly was to create a line item budget for robotics, and it's done. So thank you. It really, before I go on to the middle school, Mr. Murphy, the way that you think about and problem solve, the way earlier when you talked about the cost of the iPad and how children use the books and take notes, your thought process around the integration is very meaningful, and it has deep impact for the kids in the classroom. So that's really very appreciated. And Ms. McGinn, thank you so much for your support at the middle school, the coaches that you have, and the support that, the enthusiasm. What many may not know is that the children recently qualified to advance to the world competition, and they've done so, really, this is a fantastic piece, they've done so based not on the technology of the robot, but it's done based on the STEM project on hydroponics. And that really is driven with an integration in the classroom and in the after-curricular. So many parents may not know that technology is mandated by the state at the high school. That's why it's so robust, competitive, there's lots of support, and there's talent there. And it's not mandated at the high school level. So there is this vacuum that we're experiencing. So what we're hoping is that in the future is that we could create an experience at the high school where there are teachers that are certified in technology and driving that engineering experience for our children. So thank you so much, and the kids will really benefit. And this is really the beginning of positive, permanent change in this district. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Like to come up?
If I can add to that, I believe our elementary schools are also been working with robotics also. Any of them want to talk about that, or? Nope, okay. But I didn't want to leave with just the middle school and the high school, but I mean, I know our little kids are working on that too, but I'll go with nope. Okay, that's good.
We do it in our stellar program.
Wait, Tom. Talk to the TV.
We do it in our...
Hello. We do it in our Stellar program. We have various activities that they do. We have a 3D printer that we got on a grant. And one of the things, when we talked about budgets before and some of the things that we have in our budget, I got to tell you, through the Ed Foundation and our PTAs, we've gotten some fantastic grants that got us materials and devices that we couldn't get in our budget. And some of the kids are really benefiting from this now and sparking an interest in technology and electronics and all kinds of things, like the 3D printer that we have in our library now, the movie camera that we have, the green wall that we have. We're making movies and various other activities. And we, Dr. Johnson and I have discussed inviting Viri Pedersen to come and do a presentation one evening for the board in the future.
Thank you.
Doing nice things.
Okay. Anyone else like to say anything in respect to the budget? Okay, thank you all very much, and we will continue the budget discussion at our next meeting. We're going to move on to policies and superintendent regulations at this point. Yes, yes, you have a request, Mr. Raymar? He wants to leave. Go right ahead, so you're back in school bright and early tomorrow morning. Thank you all for coming.
And Carol, nice job on red and blue.
Nice job.
I know. Brian, we noticed that you didn't say anything tonight, so we'll make a point of asking you a lot of questions next time.
And you probably had prepared remarks and everything.
He was practicing with me earlier, rehearsal.
Okay. Talking about this is, some policies and such on stage 3. The first one is 7160, assignment of students to elementary schools. Are there any further questions or concerns on this? My feeling is that whether there are or there aren't, we will still keep this at, I don't want to vote on this at a future meeting until we see what happens with the next one, which is alternate enrollment options, because there are references in 7160 to alternate enrollment, and I don't want to have to go back and make changes depending on what happens. So if we're done with that, it could be in the completed file until it would go for passage at some future date.
So it's going to remain in stage 3?
It really will pass stage 3. It would go for an item of action at the appropriate time.
So you don't want it on the agenda anymore, you just want to...
Correct. Until 7159, and however that is decided, is resolved. But going back to the policy, is there any comments or questions on this from board members?
7160.
7160. And 7160R, the regulation? Okay, so those can move on, but be held. That brings us to 7159, the opportunities to attend schools other than home zone schools. Okay. Obviously, we have had much discussion about this. There are some other handouts. I don't know if people have seen them outside on the table. They deal with the current anticipated enrollment for next year, as well as the history of incoming kindergarten sizes for the last few years, number of years, and then some historical going back up to 10 years, more. So, who wants to start off? Well,
Okay, do you want to, just the explanation of the packet? So,
that's this,
This is the
we're talking about
packet.
this.
so there was a question of whether, as we're looking at this policy, May was an appropriate date, whether it was too early. We talked about July, we talked about other dates. So we took a look at the last 2 years, May, June, July, August, and finally September, to see if enrollment actually fluctuated that much. And while it fluctuates a little, it's not, Dr. Leahy and her staff do a pretty amazing job trying to get as many people that are here registered by May. So that's the explanation for the first sheet. The second sheet is similar, except it just looks at May versus September to say, again, is May appropriate? It goes back 4 years, and then what's highlighted is using the current policy, what would be a sending school, what would be a receiving school, sort of to see that no single school is always a sending school or always a receiving school. And any given school could be a sending or a receiving school, depending on the year, it looks like, at any time. So that was that. And then lastly, it was just a look at September enrollments, again, looking to see, or looking, saying that enrollments are different. They just are. Some years they're high, some years they're low. They waver. So that's sort of an explanation for this packet. I don't know if it moves us anywhere, but it's information.
Okay.
I'm just curious, under the qualification, under the criteria on, I guess, page 2, using our current enrollment numbers that were given out tonight.
Which is this page, just for anybody who's...
Yes, which is this page. Covert would not be, I mean, if I include the 4 packets that are out, Covert would not be a sending or a receiving, correct?
No, if you include.
No, if you include the 4.
If I include the 4,
They could be ascending,
They'd be ascending.
they could be a sending school.
because that would be 46,
Right.
which is
Okay.
23.
And Hewitt would not be ascending
No.
or receiving, right?
Correct.
Well, they could be a receiving, correct? Or no?
No.
It's at 20, right? So.
To be
you-
receiving, the average class needs to be 19 or less.
And Riverside, if I'm using 31 as my number, instead of 26, because it's 20, using the packets, they would be
A
not
receiving.
a receiving
They would be a
school,
receiving. They would be receiving.
not ascending.
Right.
And Watson
Would be neither.
Neither.
with 39 would be 19 and 20, so they wouldn't be either ascending or receiving.
No.
And then Wilson with 77 would be the same situation, not ascending or receiving.
No, it would be ascending.
Ascending?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a question to follow?
Well, that picture has changed since the last meeting, obviously, because I guess, Noreen, we have more packets that came into the picture since
Yes.
the last meeting.
Noreen, have you finished your sort of canvassing and phone calls, or are you still working on that?
Certainly the packets, we ask the question, are the packets real, all the time to the principals, and the principals have a really good handle on that. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting the folks in, but for the most part, we know which are real. Some of these packets represent new entrants in the last couple of weeks. And that's the wild card, really, the people that move into Rockville Center. And the way we try to find out about that is to ask the realtors, and that's somewhat of a guess. But we've been actually calling realtors to see how many houses are for sale, or they know of any families moving in, just to do get a little more intelligence. And as far as the push, it's not quite over. We work really hard with the Housing Authority and the Section 8 office in particular. And we were just over at Head Start about maybe 2.5 weeks ago and got a couple more kids that hadn't registered. So it's still going.
Continuing.
Based on some of the comments from the last meeting and some other parents I had talked to, it seems like nobody wants to end up with a one class per grade scenario for many reasons. But to have a policy that creates a formula that can create a one class scenario is difficult to deal with as a parent. I would like to possibly see a stipulation put into the policy that no school or elementary school would be a sending school if it's going to result in one class in that grade. I'm not just talking about Riverside, any school, to be fair. It's just, I don't think it's healthy to have, I mean, it's going to happen naturally. If it happens naturally. And we all have to deal with that when it happens that way. But I'm hearing from a lot of parents up by me in the north end of the district, as well as several parents from the south end of town, that they don't want it. They cannot accept a policy that has a formula that creates that scenario. And I tend to agree with them. So I would like to somehow or another put in some kind of stipulation that in the qualification criteria that no school would be a sending school if it's going to result in one class for that grade level.
Noreen, can you tell us historically, while we had the previous rendition of this policy in effect, how many students took advantage of it and left? Because in this case, when typically one class would be Riverside, would be the only building that's likely to have only one section. So how many students under that previous rendition of the policy left Riverside?
So there were none that left Riverside under class balancing. There were, the zoning exemptions are kind of the separate and apart from this, and 4 that were received at Riverside. It's just kind of interesting to go through all the numbers of the schools. Covert sent 5 and received 5 over the years. Wilson sent 4 and received 15. Hewitt sent 17 and received 4, and Watson sent 4 and received 2. So Riverside was the only school that did not send any.
In the end game, not send any? Last year Riverside sent, but didn't amount to it at the opening of school, but
No, we canceled, we suspended class balancing.
We suspended the policy last year.
Well, are you saying that the history doesn't provide evidence for that formula, or for me to add that stipulation? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I'm just saying that it's people don't leave Riverside.
I understand that, but
they didn't send.
I
Now,
don't
in
see how
fairness,
that-
we have to look back and see how often they were the sender and when they were the receiver. But as I said, four opted to go to Riverside as a result of class balancing.
And that's great.
And none were sent out.
Okay, but it still doesn't negate the formula or my exclusion. I mean, if you put the exclusion in there, it still has no effect whether or not that takes place. I mean, it just protects that it's not going to go down to one class.
if you're banking on history for a financial aspect of the policy, then what you're saying is it will never hurt us financially, but it will give the parents of Riverside or any class that may drop down to one, a safer, more secure feeling about their school, about how their children will go through a school as in one class as opposed to 2.
It seems to me, though, if you're going to give any school, if you're going to do this exclusion, then the next question is, well, why shouldn't another school not have an exclusion? Why should there not be always, if it's 78, 4 sections, or 76, 4 sections? Because you can lower the class size, and everybody agrees that that's a better thing. So we should always do that. In that sense, we should just then throw this out. If we're going to start making exclusions, get rid of it.
There's been that argument to dump the policy.
No, I don't. I disagree with that. I think the committee that has been working on this policy for a number of months understood the goals of what was trying to be achieved and stood behind it and did a fabulous job in coming up with a consensus that one of the purposes of forming the committee in that fashion was that every school is represented, and it was.
I was for every step of the way.
You were.
I was on that committee.
I know.
And every month that we met, or every meeting, I came there with loads of emails from parents, and I stated everything. I was not for it. I understood to a point why you wanted to have it, But I still agree with Greg that there should be a stipulation that protects every school, that we are not down to one class. It could happen to Covert, I mean, maybe not Wilson and maybe not Hewitt because they have so many children, but it doesn't matter. There should be that stipulation and it's not going to hurt anybody. So either you put it in or you dump the policy. And I gave a lot of time to be on that committee.
Yes, I personally appreciate that very much. So it's, it's a question of balance as to whether the upside of having a policy that looks to achieve a number of different goals is for the betterment of, as we are here, we are advocates for all of our buildings and all of our children. And I understand that you are an advocate for your child in your particular school.
I'm an advocate as a taxpayer, as a voter, which the election's coming up, okay? I want it for everyone. I don't care about just Riverside. I care about this whole community. I have a child in everything, in middle school, high school, and Riverside, okay? It goes across the board. What's fair is fair, and we're not saying Riverside. It's saying any building will not be reduced to one class per grade level, period.
As a result of this policy.
As a result of the
Of
policy.
the policy, period.
Everybody I've spoken to understands if the class number is, is one class, that's the way it is.
And from the people that I've talked to, they've clearly identified that, all right, if it happens naturally, that's natural. It happens. But to have a policy that has a formula in place that creates that environment, even though there's no history to back it up that would happen, it still can't hurt to have it in there.
Yeah, I think part of the reason to kind of look back at the history and the numbers is, part of it is it tells you how often this may occur. And it's not always going to be a year where it will affect any particular school at all. There were years where Hewitt, for example, went from 4 sections to 3, and they could have had 4 smaller sections at that point, and I think there was some frustration, but that was sort of the mechanism. The policy worked, I guess, if you think about it that way. The other point I want to make is that there's a piece of this policy that allowed families that desired a shift to a smaller class to do so. And it really benefited a lot, a number of families and a number of students over the years. So there's a component of the populace, of the population, of the families that really want this policy to exist because of that reason. And I do also believe that it's balanced classes. I think it's done its job in terms of that. The very last thought I had too, just running through, just as we're discussing one section versus two, there's a lot of research around the size of classes. And one larger class at times, and I'm not advocating, make everything one section or not. I mean, I've had experiences with my own kids going through 8 years of school in one section, and I could see the ups and downs of that. But a class with 23 or 24 or 25, that allows for a lot of discussion, different points of view, group work, things that happen in classes of that size that can't happen in a class of 12. And sometimes there's actually a detriment to the smaller classes. And I know that's not, it's just a thought that really kind of rings in my head a lot. So that the idea of the negativity of the one section needs to be balanced with the idea of what the one larger section might be able to do academically and instructionally. And I think that's got to be part of the conversation.
I'm not disputing large versus small class sizes. I'm arguing that one class to be created as a result of a policy, it's not natural. It's not natural selection. We're creating that environment, and I don't like it because
I understand, but I just wanted to offer some thoughts that maybe we can think about as
based on the history, all right, we probably will never fall into that scenario.
Yeah.
It'll probably never happen.
This year, if all the packets come through, they'll be just a receiver.
The big wild card in history in our town now is Avalon Bay. That's going to be something that we
When
have
does that
no
come
idea.
online? The new construction come online, those are three-bedroom apartments mostly, they're going to be families transitioning to Rockville Center, and that's the delta. That's not been there before, that's going to become a facilitator of more students. I would expect more students going to Riverside than whatever recent history has suggested, and I think for that reason alone, it's not about where we've been, it's about where we're going. And whether they're online in July or whether they come online in October, I think we're going to see Riverside is going to be the net beneficiary of more students. And I agree with Mr. Spalding that I think, listen, maybe it's not a question of getting rid of the policy, but it is a question of that it cannot be used to the detriment of one of the schools. And the last thing is with all due respect, Mr. Mason, you have, I think everyone here is not just advocating for the Riverside, we're advocating for Rockville Center. And what I would say is that the class size issue aside, there are larger issues here, which is if we're going to continue to attract people into the village, which is happening, right? There's more people want to come to Rockville Center than want to leave it. That's a good problem. Part of the reason is because you can justify high property taxes when people see that there is such attention paid when they look at something like a Riverside school and see that there's 15, 16, or 18 kids per teacher, they feel it's inferred that there's a higher quality education being received. And when you apply that against the backdrop of the Rockville Center school system, which is very well represented within Long Island and within the state of New York, everything works together. It flows. It works. I think if you were to take Riverside as an example and say, okay, now an incoming class is going to have 31 or 32 students in it, it's going, a prospective buyer is going to say, well, wait a minute, why would I want to go to this side of the town when I can be on the other side of town, maybe buy a house on the other side of town? You're putting us at a slight disadvantage. I would say you're putting the Riverside community at a disadvantage. And we need to be thinking a lot larger than just where we've been over the last 10, 15, 20 years. We need to be thinking about where we're going to be going in the future. And the Avalon question is Avalon's not going to be the last development either near the train station. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see more of that.
And just to add on to that, I think that the families moving into the Avalon are the families that we really need, and they're the families we're going to be most susceptible to losing. Those are the families that are new to the area. They are not necessarily settled into a permanent home yet. They're rentals. They don't necessarily feel a strong commitment to any one school. There's a physical divide where they have to come south of Sunrise Highway to go to school. Those are the families that are going to be attracted by this policy to the other schools in the district, and those are the families we really, really need to keep our school vibrant and thriving, and to ensure that we can have the 2 classes per grade that makes our school work so much better. And I know we're not talking about class size right now, but the research really does not show that at young grades, bigger class size is better. Smaller is better. And we're talking about, my son was 4 years old when he started kindergarten this year, and he has been thriving at Riverside, and I am so thrilled and grateful, and this conversation could be going complete opposite direction, and I just, please, 2 classes per grade is such a benefit. Don't do something that's going to squash our opportunity to have that, please.
Excuse me. Is there anything else anybody would like to say that we haven't heard? Because obviously, we're going to need to go back and discuss more.
Hi, Tara Kelly, 99 Windsor Avenue. Just to speak to Greg, what you said, I have 3 children in the district. I have a 6th grader, I have a 4th grader, and I have a kindergartner. And my 6th grader started in a single class my 6th grader started with 16 kids. By somehow the grace of God, we got triplets, twins. They did split in 2nd grade, I believe, with 27 or 28 children. My 4th grader has been in a single ever since she started. And really, socially, it is a huge struggle. And it happened naturally. I would never, have fought to. But, the conversation was always at the beginning of the school year. I don't know, should we go to St. Agnes? It's kind of painful. And there is a stigma attached when it does become one class, whether it happens naturally or it is, like you said, due to policy, could be like forced upon you. But we do have twins that live around the block who do not come to our school because they do not want the twins to be in the same class. And we did have another set of twins that joined 2 years ago who did not know it was a single class, but they would have opted to go to Watson had they known that we were a single class. So that's already 4 children that we've written off because we were a single class. So, and then last year, that's why we fought it so hard, to become 2 classes. And then when children are taken away, I mean, you just look at the numbers of the schools. I mean, 302, 465, 175, 297, 400. Like, are you really going to take away from our population of a small 175? Like, it's so, fragile socially as it is. Just like the fact that we would have a policy that could take away from that. Like, it's heartbreaking for kids. So, I don't know, that's my input for it. But I do appreciate, because I feel like you just said what we've all been trying to say, and we're like beating a dead horse at this point. I mean, it's 10 after 10. Like, my eyes are bleeding from the budget. Like, I want to kill myself. But
I got a lot of phone calls.
That is really, truly what, the way that we feel. And I just feel like this policy will, be detrimental. And we need those kids from Avalon. We got a lot of kids from Avalon. And, maybe not a lot in your eyes, but, 10 kids, that's a lot. I mean, we get a new kid in our grade, it's like the second coming of Christ. It's like, I know we're laughing about it, but it is. So, but thank you very much. And really, that was the point that we were trying to make.
You have to.
Hi, Nadia Gray, 571 North Village. I'm going to get shot in the head by Riverside people. But I just want to say the point of our class balancing committee was for fiscal responsibility. I think it says that in the beginning. So if we automatically give somebody a second, or give Riverside a second class, or whoever has one section a second class, you're already adding in another teacher automatically. So then it almost loses the reason for it, I think. Also, you said you're going to be stuck in a class with 32 or 33 kids. We never said if class balancing took place that the classes would never split. We still offered the split and said the split would be decided in August. And I think that was all I really had to say. I feel like if one class automatically, and this is only for class balancing, so that doesn't guarantee that Riverside's going to have 2 classes every kindergarten.
No, they're not
anyway.
asking for a manufactured split, only if it occurs naturally.
Right.
If only 23 or 25 students sign up for kindergarten regularly,
that's one class.
That's one class, and
And then it's going to go to 2, but then
no.
if I'm at
No,
Hewitt,
They're not
so then they get
asking for that
27.
split.
All right,
They're
so
they're asking that a policy doesn't create a situation that doesn't allow them to split if their numbers are a little higher.
27, and then we become 25.
Right.
So we would have been 2.
You would have been
but
2.
then it creates 1.
Right.
Right.
But then I'm at Hewitt, and I have a class of 75 that went to 77 or 78 that should go to 4 sections.
But
Now
they
what
balance
happens?
But
Because class balancing shouldn't,
well,
so then where are you giving people preference for
The argument is
teachers?
behind the one class,
Single
single grade, single class in a grade there's an argument to say that it's not healthy environment. Not that it's not healthy, it's just, there's an argument there that it's not.
But nobody's saying the class would never split. It's just when it's at that cusp of like 26, 27, where you guys don't even know if the class is going to split yet or if you're going to split the class. You're just offering people just a different option. And nobody's saying that you're pulling kids away from them. That was the point of I just sat on the committee, and I just want to say, I understand where everybody's coming from, but that was what we worked toward, to kind of make things even, so.
Right, we talked a lot about equity.
Right.
That 2 classes of 13 is when you've, in one district, you have classes of 13 in one school and classes of 25 and 26 in another. And there's an equity question.
Right.
And that was one of the things we tried to address.
As far as financial, We always try to be as financially or fiscally responsible as possible, but sometimes you have to go beyond that. Sometimes that's not necessarily the right thing to do. It's a good thing, but not necessarily the right thing all the time.
So when my son was going to Hewitt 3 years ago and he sat in a class with 27 students for 2 years, nobody thought about fiscal responsibility because there was class balancing. So it's not...
27?
They had 27. They had 26 in every class.
26 doesn't necessarily, but it doesn't necessarily, but that's an administration, they feed back. So maybe Liz, I don't know.
So if somebody's in Riverside and you don't know if they're going to split, don't you want to offer that family the opportunity to move, to change schools if you say it's not fiscally responsible?
Kids the same way your son was left. If we're 26 or 27 and one kid decides I'm going to go balance, then not only are we left one class per grade, but we're left with, I don't want to, I'm not.
No, I understand.
Because I do appreciate all the time you put in. I don't think you can, I think part of the problem with this policy is you can't actually make everybody happy. There's always going to be someone that feels that they're getting the short end of the stick. So in a situation like that, I wonder why we're turning ourselves into pretzels to create something that's always going to make someone unhappy. And to me, it does go back to money. And I wish we would just put that on the table as it's a question of, are we willing to pay an extra teacher if a class splits into a 14-14? Is that where we want to spend our district's money? If you decide that that's not where you want, it's your prerogative.
It's very difficult to find the money to pay that teacher in a 2% cap. I mean, we are very limited in where we go with money.
Your seat, you're saying, how can we look at a Riverside class? And I totally get why other schools say the same thing. Riverside is a 13 and a 14. They get 2 teachers, and my kid's in a 26-kid class. I get that that's where you're coming from. We just feel very, very strongly, if you can't tell at 10:20, that creating a policy where I know you say it hasn't happened. I'm not quick enough with the numbers. I don't even know in those years when no one moved, was there even an option of a 19 or less class for them to move into? I don't know enough about this.
If the history hasn't shown that it has ever happened, then the clause won't have it.
We're just coming off of last year, especially the way everything happened last year. There's a very real fear amongst the Riverside parents that this is going to, in the long term, decimate our school, that it's going to be an opportunity to take 2 to 3 kids per year, keep us at one section of 25, and even if you take those kids in May, I know, again, I don't know that the numbers necessarily so far play that out, but no one knows the future. So if you take a couple kids in May to get us to 25, and then a couple more kids come in August, we're still in the same, I just don't think you're solving anyone's problems. I don't think you're solving Dewitt's problems, Wilson's problems. I don't think you're solving the problems of a handful of kids per year and creating other problems for other people. So,
I think also part of the challenge is, and I don't know if there's any parents here who live in the Avalon, but Avalon is obviously zoned for Riverside. But given the opportunity, I have to believe that as a working mom, if I was told about this policy and I'm like, oh, my child we're in a class of say 26, and I could go across the street instead of my child having to be bused or me having to drive my child to school, I would most likely, as a parent, say, okay, I'll go to Watson. And you're taking something that is a zone thing, I know this may also play in differently, but that there is certainly a perception that if given the choice and presented at kindergarten sign-up, that, okay, essentially you can choose which elementary school, that the Avalon parents would make a decision to say, I'm going to go to the building that is physically closer to me.
They might not have that option, though, because the numbers will tell them what's available.
If the numbers will tell that, I think that the challenge is the goals of the committee, I think, and the goals of the district. It's so it's good. It's so good. It's the idea that we want to balance our class sizes. As a district, we don't want to see any kids in the class size of 26 at all. Like, whether it's Hewitt, whether it's one class, whatever it is. And I think that as all parents, we can definitely unite behind that piece. That that's just such a challenge. So how do we balance our classes? How do we allocate our resources? How do we make sure that everyone is getting what they need? And I think the challenge is that the policy, well, its intentions are really, really good, but I just don't know that the outcome is attaining what it wants. Because even when you look at the numbers for the grades by section, there's a fundamental flaw. For section number 1, it starts at 23. Well, for sections as far as 2, the math starting, I think the math that starts at sections of 15, or for the 3 of 17.
No, they start at sections of 23.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm flipping my numbers. I'm not doing that. But when you're looking at the numbers on the high end, to look at that number for 28, that's even a consideration as an option for one section, because then you're saying...
Okay, wait, we're going to stop you. No. We said it last time, we'll say it again. Those numbers are not splitting numbers. These are just two separate policies.
So you're saying that if there are 28 children that are lined up to be enrolled in the kindergarten class, those children's parents would be advised that they could...
They would be notified, I wouldn't say advised, that there's this option.
If there was availability.
If there was even an option. Sometimes there isn't an option. Right.
But I'm sorry, I just want to say one more thing. You're assuming that there's going to be money in the budget to split from one section to 2. And if there's a year that there's not money for another teacher, which I think everything is pretty tight, you have to offer people another way to move. So that's where I see the issue with keeping it at one section.
Okay, I just want to, Karen Burgee, 15 Hendrickson Avenue. We just talked for the budget for a long time, and I heard a lot of money being asked for different kinds of things. We're talking about classrooms and the education of our kids first and foremost. Before we talk about buying a piece of equipment that's going to clean the floors, which is great, but we do have mops still, and we do need to educate the kids first, right? So let's talk classrooms first. The one and only thing on this that I have a question is, we're saying the one section, 23 to 28, if we put in there just what Mr. Spalding was saying, that we can't leave it at one classroom, how is that hurting anybody else? How is it affecting anybody else?
It's not that it's affecting anybody else.
So then why can't we do that?
It's that the people who are at Wilson or Hewitt are going to say, well, we don't want this either.
What don't they want?
They don't want class balancing either. They want to have 4 sections, right? At 77, they want to have 4 sections. So they need to come here
and tell you what their problem is. We're telling you this is going to be terrible for our building. We are really scared that this is going in a bad direction. So you're saying it's probably never going to be used. So what is the big deal to put it in there? It's not going to change anything anyway. So just put it in there to protect us. We'll be happy. It's not hurting anybody else. And if they have something that they want to come for, we'll come and support what they want too. We don't want it to hurt any building. We should never put in a policy that's going to hurt any building.
And our intention is not to hurt any building.
Well, you are. You absolutely, that's exactly how our entire population feels. You're putting something in place that's going to hurt our building, all of our kids. Like, that's why this is so, we're here night after, we have kids at home. We don't want to be sitting here doing this, coming to say the same thing. It's just such an easy fix. It's not going to affect anything. It doesn't hurt anybody. We're not hurting them.
Just out of curiosity, so because I wasn't in the district when this was created, and I guess there were large classrooms, so when this policy was originally implemented with regards to students at Hewitt, did it help them, or did it, like how, I mean, I guess different...
Originally, what happened was several years ago, and I apologize for everybody who's heard this before. Several years ago, we had classes approaching the class cap at Hewitt, at Watson, and at Wilson. And in some buildings, we didn't have room to split. At Watson specifically, we didn't have room to split. And prior to that, we had had a meeting on class caps, and parents had requested, I know this is going to, parents had requested the ability to move from one school to the other. The parents came to us and said, I can walk to Covert, but I'm zoned for Hewitt. I can walk to Watson, but I'm zoned for Hewitt. So we came up with this policy saying, okay, if you're at close to 25 or above 25 and you want to move, you can move. And that was the first year where we had probably the most movement. So Hewitt, which their incoming kindergarten was 74, then it was sort of 76, then they started losing people, then they gained people. They ended up losing about 6 people. They had 3 sections of 25 each. And then I think 2 days after school started, 2 more kids showed up. So, you know.
And you would have been forced to solve their problem for them in a, maybe not an ideal way.
No,
but it wouldn't have left them with 3 sections of 27 or 26.
So
it would have left them, maybe you would have had to finagle something with the building space, but they would have had classes in the low 20s instead of being overcrowded at 26, had those few kids not elected to go to Wilson, right? So the few kids that jumped ship benefited to the detriment of 75 kids, 77 kids left behind at Hewitt.
Do we have any data on the influx of siblings in the school that the parent, like, let's say those children moved from Hewitt to Wilson? Do we have any data about how, like, the influx of siblings has affected subsequent grades? Because
Well, they weren't allowed to move. They can only move if there's room under the class balancing portion.
Oh, okay.
You just don't automatically move.
Hi, good evening. Kelly Nakari. I'm like nervous. 19 Windermere Place. I have an 8th grader, a 3rd grader, and I have a kindergartner coming in this year. I'm so concerned about all numbers. I feel bad for you guys, but I'm also concerned about my home and my home value. And it would be very undesirable to move into this community and see a school that's down to 1 class per grade. So back to the stipulation. Protect our home values, protect the South Side community. You know, if I had a friend coming in and my kindergartner's in 5th grade now and he's graduating, and the school ended up being where it's mainly just 1 class per grade, I don't know if I would really encourage my friend to move to the South Side. I love the South Side. I love Rockville Center. I love being here. I want to be here forever. I want my kids to be here forever. But I'm just fearful that Riverside is going to become extremely undesirable and an undesirable place, South Side, an undesirable place to buy a home.
Thank you. Just one thing. Out of the last 7 years, going back to 2010, Riverside's kindergarten enrollment would have warranted 1 class in 4 of those 7 years. In other words, the numbers were 16, 16, 24, 25. So there, at 4 out of the 7 years, it naturally would have occurred as 1 class. So 2 classes is not an automatic. So I understand you're not. It's not something you're saying, but some in the conversation, it's sounding like some are saying that should always be 2 classes. No, I understand. I know that's not what you really. Yes, I understand.
Last year's class of kindergarten was 29.
No.
No, it's 25.
Hello, my child was in it.
Okay. Well, data.
Children.
No, 28. It was 28. But you had 28 in 1 class?
No.
2 classes. That's not one of the years I counted as part of the 7. No, I said 4 out of the last 7.
Michael Mulhall, 115 Lincoln Avenue. I just want to just recharacterize some of my earlier comments. I don't think this is so much about where we've been. It's really about growth. and it's about anticipating what the future is going to look like. And I have the good fortune of working as a consultant in financial services, and so I get to see a lot of different items in terms of my reading. But you know, one of the things that's going on right now that you're all very aware of is the high rate of innovation around almost everything in our society, especially in the world of finance, but it goes to everything. And one of the things that most people are not paying attention to is the death of brick and mortar businesses. So when I couched my comments earlier about I anticipate more people moving into Rockville Center, it's because I actually anticipate some of our commercial businesses failing. And when they do, I expect to see more Avalon, because folks cannot afford Manhattan. And if you look at history, Manhattan, over the last 100 years since the building of the Brooklyn Bridge, the city has grown out to the point that when you look into western Nassau County, parts of Malvern look more like the city than they do like Long Island. You're seeing smaller property sizes, more density. And the village of Rockville Center, sitting just east of Lynbrook, is eventually going to feel that. And to me, the reason why I think so many people in the community, and it's a larger issue, but it dovetails here with what's going on at the school board level, so many people supported Avalon, is because they understood that the initial amount of housing that was built, that was going to have a benefit for Riverside, and people made decisions based on that. And now there's a second tier coming on, and I don't know, John, do you know when that's going to be finished or when they're expecting that to come online?
Third tier.
But, pardon me?
Third tier.
The third tier, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fourth and fifth. My point is that what the past is really not going to be a great guide to the future, and you know, the real issue here is about not having a policy that harms one part of the community. Listen, I'm all about this for all of Rockville Center, not just for Riverside. But if you were to enact this policy and the policy started to take kids out of the next tier of Avalon at our expense, you're putting the south part of Rockville Center at a disadvantage, both financially in terms of the way our property values are accrued. Our property taxes are going to be seen as too high comparative to what other parts of the village are receiving in terms of services, and this is where we're advocating from. I think the last point I'll make, though, is that if you go down to Riverside School and you try putting 28 kids in kindergarten in one class, that building was not designed to support that, in my humble opinion, and you're putting us at a disadvantage.
Just to correct you again, no one here has advocated having 28 children in one kindergarten class.
Listen, we can only go by what happened last year. I know the policy's changing, and I recognize it. We are defending our turf.
But those 28 children last year were in two classes.
How many kids are we anticipating coming in for this September as of right now?
Right now,
26
there are
registered
26.
and 5 packets. So, and the packets seem real. Ms. Bach, right? They're real packets? Okay, so we're at 31 kids, so you're kind of beyond the window.
You're going to be...
Okay.
And to follow up on what you said about looking into the future, based upon what you're speculating, if there are more elementary age students moving into Avalon and coming to Riverside, that 31 could become 40 before you know it. And then,
Then you're...
great or not great is not even the point, but it's just, I'm taking this one step further and saying, and yes, it would be great, but taking it one step further, you'll always be at 2, and then this becomes...
Moot point, correct. But I'm hoping that that's the case. But I think this, and I'll stop here, I don't want other people to speak, but John said it best, which is there are periods where we do have to put, and I recognize, listen, I do recognize you have great responsibilities to balance the budget under a 2% cap. It is very difficult. I'm not appreciative of what it takes to achieve that. I am. But I want to couch it in what I think John made a good point earlier, which is the fact that there are periods of time, they're just small periods, where you have to serve as a bridge to ensure that you maintain something until something like Avalon, the next tier of housing, comes on board, so that we do not create a situation where people have a perception that the south side of town the Riverside District is somehow less. We believe it's more. We bought our homes here, we invested in here, we're raising our families here. We're just couching and protecting what we've made an investment in. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
When we were talking about this list, we were talking about the total number, not the number with packets out. And what are we going by with it? Are we going by the number enrolled or the number with packets? With the number enrolled, we are a giving school. 25, we're a giving school. But
Right now, you're at
Well, you have
March,
26
You're at
registered.
26 right now.
With,
Right, that's
with
within
five,
the school.
5 packets. And the reason why, and you're right, I mean, until they're registered, they're not registered.
So at what point are we sending out the letters?
Not,
It would be,
Right.
I mean, right now.
Right now, there are.
Right now, nothing, right now, nothing.
There's
Right now,
nothing.
nothing, but if the policy.
Because there's no receiving?
One person at a time.
Wait, right now, nothing, because there's no policy. If the policy was passed,
okay.
it would be May.
Right.
And we'd look at the numbers in May.
Right.
These are early numbers, it's March. And we have seen, again, historically, March to May, there's difference. And if we were going to go to a May date, we would have the principals looking at, calling those people who have packets to make sure they're real.
Okay, but if these were the numbers in May, the letters will go out based on numbers or packets? Like, what are you
No,
gonna
based
use?
on numbers. Everything's based on numbers.
So-
Packets are, we don't know if.
We're going to wait and see what our number is, but that packet
But
number.
again, right now, we're not doing anything.
Yes, but.
Right now,
Well,
it's
we
just
don't have the
projecting.
policy signed yet, but
Right.
if it's signed by May, and that number
It's-
stays at 25.
It's at
26.
26.
Then,
Yeah.
right, so I'm just getting confused because you keep saying the packets are there, so we're not a giving school, but
If the packets are real, and they seem to be real, right, you wouldn't be a giving school.
if they're not real, if they don't come through.
If they're not real, then
We can go down
then it's
to
26.
Your 26
We can go
becomes
down to
30.
they don't come through, it means that they decided to go to St. Agnes or moved away or didn't
right.
move in, or, they didn't appear.
We don't
But
know yet what this situation is
Yeah.
yet, but if.
But I know most of the names associated with these packets because I hear about them as they come in. And, 2 of them I just was talking to the registrar about this morning. So, I know they're little people really coming. So they're really coming.
Yeah,
But I'm
and-
just asking for case scenario, because you keep talking about packets and numbers. We go by the number.
We go by the number, right, the actual register.
And once again, the exclusion is just to protect any of our schools
Right.
in the future. Not talking about next year or the year after, but if Riverside turns out to be 40, 50 kids per grade and Covert drops for some reason, then it protects Covert. My thought is, I don't want to see any grade go down to one class as a result of this policy.
Okay, I'd like to move on to the items for action if we can.
Gonna stay at step 3?
Yeah.
Of course, I said that at the beginning.
Can I just ask, there are 3 committee members here, and I know that I've asked, but do you feel any benefit to bringing the committee back together to try and address the issues, or are they unaddressable? I just want your opinion on it. I don't know what would.
I had spoken about the chart being confusing. I thought that would happen. People are getting so hung up on sections and how many it's going to take to split, which is a separate conversation. So that was something I was concerned about with the policy chart, which I think maybe we should revisit and so that doesn't happen. But one thing that is also, that I took from the committee was that there would be no letter inviting people to move
Just kindergarten.
schools
Kindergartners.
outside of kindergarten.
Right.
And
Yes.
that also needs to be understood by everybody, that for the other grades, this is something people can apply for, but back in the day, when it first started, there was a letter that stated which school you could go to and what numbers, and that was abolished with this new policy, which I thought was a positive for the people who felt, great, now you're inviting people to leave our school, and, and I still stand by that the policy was created to hopefully push people toward you. I really do feel that way, and I know Christine was vocal in the meetings, and I was as well, and so was everybody else, but there was no part of me who comes from Hewitt and did, I mean, Noreen said the numbers. Hewitt suffered number-wise the most. And I will say, we came out in droves. So you might only see a couple of us here and now, but we were righted in the end. Our class did split when they needed to, and we do feel that our class sizes are where they should be at Hewitt now. Don't take the lack of people as any sort of, misunderstanding. But I really did love that we could hopefully be pushing people toward you. And what I'm afraid of is if we don't do it, you might miss the opportunity to get 4 or 5 more kids, which is what we've actually said we've given you through this. And I just don't want you to miss that part of it, because I was, that's what we were hoping for, the policy. There was no ill intent for anybody to take from you. It was to give to you.
I think is where one of the big things was always that when you guys were first all starting to get together about you could potentially making Riverside always a receiving school and never a giving school. Like when that was the way that the policy was first viewed, because you're absolutely right. Open arms, you're welcoming.
And Hewitt was the same. We wanted to be a receiving school. So, the way I looked at it is, look, I mean, our kindergarten, for example, we went from 80 kids last year at this time to 60 this year. So you could see how even we fluctuate. And we are always known to be the larger school and all these kids. But you know what? If we were at 58 right now, we could technically be a receiving school finally, So the policy 3 years ago didn't suit us well, but it could have this year, because our numbers dropped 20 kids. With what this man is saying about the Avalon, I agree, and I hope that all those own kids, come to you and you get more. But I just hate to see you not take the policy for the benefit it could give Riverside, because that's what we were hoping.
And I think the concern is just that because again, the Avalon, again, as a parent, like if you were, looking at Hewitt across the street from you and you're being told that you were going to Watson, you would certainly, if, it's being presented to you as the incoming parent, you have no exposure, you have no ties to the school, you would certainly say, oh, you know what? Okay, I'll go to Hewitt, I'll go right here, which is much closer. And when it could potentially be to the detriment. So it's more, I think, and now again, we do need to balance the classes. And I think that it is the idea and the theory behind it is good and so well-intentioned to balance the resources and use what is present in this community, and I think that that's the beauty of all the parents and how well this board, I think, does work with the parents, and that you guys really do listen to everything that is brought before you. So, and I don't necessarily know what the answer is, not know what but the idea of just saying, just not creating a formula that is going to take it from 2 sections down to 1. But, again.
Okay, thank you all. Again, moving on to items for action. I believe we can do this by acclamation.
Yes.
So it's the PAR, the addendum, also the nominations to the BOCES board, which are there now 3.
No, you have to pull that out. That can't, no,
We have an amendment.
no, there's only 3.
There's 3.
There's only 3, so that's
We
fine.
only can nominate 3.
Pardon
Oh,
me?
we got a third.
Yes, we have a 3rd now.
Okay.
That came in, I guess, today.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just looking at some of the change orders, Robert. I asked you for some.
Which number?
Actually, if I'd like to go through owner. Now, there are some notations of owner requested. So that's a true change, but the other ones are things that were missing from the original plan.
Right, yes.
So this is the first time we've seen any notation like that. Why is that, though? I mean, it's happened in the past where we've asked for things, and it's just a different way they wrote it out?
Just a different way that they've written the change order.
Split, what was I asking? Computer drives, I'm not going to ask. I'm sorry, I had my notations on the other copy. So many of these are, like, new circuits for appliances in the life skills. Why if we were designed a life skill room,
The original design was for them to use the existing power, and once they got in and started doing the installation, they decided that they couldn't use the existing power and they had to run new power.
that's all I can recall.
Okay.
All right.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to return to executive session for negotiations and everything else.
Thanks for staying.
Yes, I don't care, it's 68 degrees.
It's freezing in here.
I like it.
I was even cold.
I'm very comfortable.
I was worried about it being too hot.
You're worried about the heat? That 50-degree air must have gone down to 45.
Early in the
Good night, thank you.
Early in the meeting, it was close.
I was going to put my coat on, and I figured I would.
Oh my God.
It's nice. It's just a little bit too much.